The Smoke Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
What up, what up? Fade to Black. How you doing? Bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Tuesday, October 20th, 293 days into the new year, 72 days left. We are live from the City of Angels Studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. COA Vapor. Makers of the Fade to Black e-juice. It is called Fader Loops. Just go to the COA banner at jimmychurchradio.com. You can use the promo code JimmyLive. That's Jimmy, L-I-V-E, for the Fader Not Special. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR and the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we have live in the studio, very special guest, comedian Michael Gregorian. Some say Gregorian. Right here, live in the studio. Be taking your calls to 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. Tonight is a very special show. I met Michael. I saw him live at a comedy club with his cast of characters, and saw his show, and it's absolutely incredible. And he's a mover and shaker here in Los Angeles. And then we had him as a guest over at Casa Day Church, and we sat and talked. And what shocked me, what blew my mind, was he's the kind of guy that makes me look smart, and that's important. He knows a lot. He's a walking pillar of conspiracy knowledge, and we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to talk to him about comedy, about ufology, conspiracies, what's going on in the world today, and it's going to be a great, great, fun show. So I want everybody to turn the lights down, get comfortable, get your drink and smoke of choice, and get ready for a really cool conversation tonight on Fade to Black. We will be taking your calls a little bit later, 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. Now that we got that out of the way, he is sitting right here next to me, by the way. So if you're wondering if he's live, go ahead, Michael. Say hi to the world.
Hi, world.
His mic's off. That's all he gets. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great to have somebody here in the bunker with me. And just to let you know, yes, the lights are dark, and we are ready to go. All right? Let's get a few things out of the way really quick. Skyfire Summit, yes, it is coming up November 5th. I can't believe it. It's coming up in 3 short weeks out there in Heber, Arizona. Speakers are Travis Walton, David Hatcher-Childress, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, Lee Spiegel, Tracy Torme, Ben Hansen, James Fox, Lynn Katai, Jennifer Stein, No Torres, Alejandro, the man with one name, Paula Harris. Get your tickets now. Go to skyfiresummit.com. And I want to thank everybody that has pre-registered at Alien Snowfest because of the early bird special, which is only $179. And there's one thing that they're going to be doing, aside from, George and Jason and Linda and Stanton and Micah and Barra and Dolan, Kletsky, or is it just Chase, or should it be Kletsky, and myself? But they're going to do an ice sculpture contest there, too, as well, live. I can't wait to see that. Check it out. All of the information is right there at aliensnowfest.com. And I do want to remind everybody that this Sunday, October 25th, I'll be hosting Coast to Coast AM, and my guests are Chase Kletzky and Ron Felber. We'll be discussing the Mojave incident, and we'll have Chase on talking about all of her current investigations and what she is doing with MUFON. And, of course, you know, the big news is the Kepler discovery. Tomorrow night on the show, we will have on John Richards from SETI, okay? Seth Shostak is he's got a bad cold. I think it moved into like pneumonia status, and like doctors are involved kind of status. So he's down, but he brought in his right-hand guy, and so that will be tomorrow night. And this is the gentleman that is actually doing the observations right now out to the star that everybody is talking about. Okay, so that will be tomorrow night. And then tomorrow night, Dean Ryan will be with us. Yes, the Dean Ryan tomorrow night. So we'll be able to discuss all of the backstory to this recent Kepler discovery, the cover-up and the disinfo that has been involved for the last, how many decades, but leading up to this big announcement that came last week. So there you go. So that's tomorrow night. Great show tomorrow night. Let's see. Where am I? I just lost track of my brain. Let's just get this show cracking. Are you ready? Today, Snoop Dogg is 44 years old. Hey, wait a minute. I'm going to bring Mike in. Mike, are you there?
I'm here.
Snoop Dogg, is he lying about his age, 44? Or is that a lot of weed?
I think he smoked so much weed he thinks he's 44.
40 for that?
Yeah.
He looks
74.
Like
he looks like he's 74. But, and I think he smoked way too much weed. 44 is the number of joints he smoked today, not his actual age.
I mean, how can he say that with a straight face? There's no way he's 44.
Because he's Snoop D-O double dizzle, guys.
Tom Petty today is 65. It's going to be a good show tonight. And don't forget, the word of the month is spoon. I got an email today. Hold on. I'll tell you who it was from here in a second. It was, I'm looking for Mike. Mike, thank you for the email. I didn't know this, but you remember the cartoon The Tick, which I used to love. That was a great show. His battle cry was spoon. And I didn't know that. And I watched the episode today. Mike sent it to me. And I got the episode of the Tick eating a bowl of cereal. And he decides they need a battle cry. So when they go into battle. And he figures it out when he looks at his spoon. The battle cry is spoon. It was awesome. Thank you, Mike, for the email. Somebody should post that up in Twitter right now and go find the picture of the Tick with spoon. It is absolutely insane. So funny. You can email throughout the show tonight, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Do follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get yourself some tweet deck and use hashtag F2B. That is the sandbox. Come and join us tonight. If you have any questions for myself, any comments, for myself or Michael throughout the show, hashtag F2BQ is the way to get it done. Do follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black, J Church Radio. It's easy to do. Go to the website, follow, like, and subscribe. There it is. It didn't take long. Walter just posted. That's it. Check this out, Michael. That's the Tick.
Oh, yeah.
That's our word of the month, spoon. And there you go. That's going to get a retweet. And there you go. Oh, look, Michael and I just got out there pretty quick. Look at that. That's a handsome crew right there. I love this audience. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's going to be a great evening. Let's take a quick break. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Michael Gregorian, UFO type of comedian. right here, live in the bunker. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletzky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Tonight, we have a very special guest live right here in the bunker. Comedian Michael Gregorian is here. We'll be taking your calls also later on in the show. 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black and the number 14. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's get this show cracking. On this day in history, in 1977, Leonard Skinner's plane crashes in Mississippi, killing band members Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines, as well as the band's assistant road manager and the plane's pilot and co-pilot. 20 others survived. Crazy. Fate or fact. In 1836, a pig in France was executed by public hanging for the murder of a child. And that is a fate or fact. Only in France, right? All right, let's get to all the news that you know nothing about. This story is out there right now, and it's pretty crazy. The hacker who claims to have broken into the AOL account of CIA Director John Brennan says that he obtained access, check this, by posing as a Verizon worker to trick another employee into revealing another employee of Verizon the spy chief's personal information. And this is how it went down. He was using information like the 4 digits of Brennan's bank card, which Verizon easily gave up, by the way. The hacker and his associates were able to reset the password on Brennan's AOL account repeatedly. At the other end, the spy chief, the head of the CIA, is resetting his password at the same time. He's trying to get control of his email account. He doesn't know what's going on. News of the hack was first reported by the New York Post after the hacker had contacted the newspaper, and the hackers described how they were able to access sensitive government documents stored as attachments in his personal email account on AOL. It's no joke. The documents that they had access included the sensitive 47-page SF-86 application that Brennan had filled out to obtain his top secret security clearance. Can you imagine what he had to list on 47 pages? It's an application to get his top secret security clearance to be head of the CIA. After providing the Verizon employee with a fabricated employee V code, which is a unique code that Verizon assigns to employees, they got the information that they were seeking. And this included Brennan's account number, his 4-digit PIN number, the backup mobile number on his account, and Brennan's AOL email address, and the last 4 digits on his bank card. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Verizon, I'm sure, is reviewing how their employees talk to each other. This is a pretty tragic situation, and as far as conspiracies go, this is something that, in a genuine sense, there's something more to the story. Former BBC journalist and UN official was found dead in a bathroom in Istanbul's airport. Yes. Her name, Jacqueline Sutton. She's 50 years old. She was found hung Saturday in a restroom at the airport's International Transit Terminal. And this is according to Turkey's state-sponsored news agency and Istanbul police. Sutton, who once worked for the United Nations and the BBC, flew from London to Istanbul to take a connecting flight to her base in Erbil, in the Kurdish region up in northern Iraq, according to her employer, the Institute for War and Peace Reporting. They are saying that she committed suicide. Now, all of her friends, all of the social networks blew up today, saying, you don't know. Do not believe what you are being told right now in the media. That is not her. She didn't commit suicide. And I don't know what it's like in somebody's life that you're at that point where you need to end your own life. But I just don't think you're going to hang yourself at an airport in Istanbul. There is something to this story. She was taken out. Apple has removed hundreds of apps from iTunes that were apparently secretly collecting personal information from anyone who downloaded them. Most of the 256 affected apps were made in China, but they were available worldwide on the App Store and were downloaded over 1 million times. The app's creators used a software development kit from a Chinese advertising company called Yomi, which allowed developers to put ads in their apps. And that's kosher. That's fine. Everybody does that. But Yomi's software gathered information about the people who downloaded the apps, including their personal email addresses and their iPhone serial numbers, sending all of that data to Yomi servers. That skirted, went around, and bypassed, took a left-hand turn in front of Apple's super strict privacy guidelines for app developers. Now, there's a list of the apps you can go and find out. If you did download one of these apps, they will no longer update. But your information has been sent to the Chinese. Think about that for a second. NASA has launched a new website. They did it yesterday. and it will feature at least a dozen new images of the Earth every day. Full, sunlit, bright blue, high-def Earth. Yes, it's epic. Why is it epic? Because it's coming from EPIC, the Earth Polychromatic Imaging Camera. It's aboard NASA's Discover the Deep Space Climate Observatory. The satellite will be responsible for capturing these images from its orbit at, check this out, point L1, 1 million miles from Earth. While the EPIC itself only has a 4-megapixel resolution, it is capable of snapping 10 pictures at a time and then combining the best 3, providing 12 megapixel high-res images of the Earth. They're absolutely incredible. You can go to NASA's new website and check it out for yourself. You've never seen Earth like this before. Just about anything can be 3D printed nowadays. We know that. Well, check this out. You can do skyscrapers. We know that you can 3D print a gun, a house, a car. But there's a guy now that is 3D printing a rail gun. I've seen the video. It's absolutely nuts. He says it's capable of firing objects at over 900 kilometers per hour. The man whose identity is being withheld built the railgun and posted the images on Imgur under the username NSA_listbot. Go and search it. Check it out. It's incredible. He says he is not an engineer with a major defense firm, but that he managed to get together all of the information and the parts needed to put it through a 3D printer. Now, 6 large capacitors are inside the railgun. They charge. It is handheld. It is gnarly. And it delivers more than 3,000 kilojoules of energy for every shot taken. You got to look at the test firing of this thing. It's wicked. No gunpowder. It is absolutely gnarly. And the thing is made of plastic. NASA estimates that a relatively large asteroid recently discovered on my birthday, by the way, October 10th, will likely fly past Earth this coming Halloween. Now, check this out. It's not considered a threat because it's going to pass us by about 310,000 miles out. But that 310,000 miles, but that's close. Its size between 1 and 2,000 feet across. Its speed 78,000 miles per hour. That is ripping fast. Much, much higher than usual. The closest flyby will be on October 31st at 11:18 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right in the middle of the day. And with an amateur telescope or binoculars, you will be able to see this. This will be the largest object to fly by Earth, scheduled-wise, until 2027. Now, the cool thing about this, once again, this was discovered by an amateur astronomer, not somebody professional at some observatory somewhere. I would be so much more comfortable if these discoveries were made by quote-unquote professionals, because it's amateur astronomers that seem to be saving the planet from an asteroid impact every time. Scary. Subway, check this out. This is one of those news stories where, again, you look at the headline and then you got to flip it over 180 degrees and look at its belly to get the truth. Because the headline is Subway switching to meat without antibiotics. You know, that sounds good. That sounds great. I'm in, right? I'm in. I don't want that, right? Okay. Now, check this out. This is the real meat of the story. Subway actually plans to switch to meat raised without antibiotics over the next decade after a coalition of advocacy groups plan to deliver petitions to the company's headquarters tomorrow actually, calling for the change. The sandwich chain had already said this summer that it would start switching to chicken raised without antibiotics, important to human medicine, by the next year. Now it says it will serve chicken that received no antibiotics starting in March 2016. It will also make a change to Turkey starting sometime next year, no date given, with the transition expected to be complete within the next 3 years. So now we're skating on 2020. Pork and beef raised without antibiotics will follow within the next 6 years. After that, or by, they're hoping, 2025. That is like the most misleading headline I've ever read. And lastly, before we get Michael in here, the Army's $5 billion intelligence network designed to give commanders battlefield awareness, but criticized for years as a boondoggle, was not working in Afghanistan during the recent American air attack on a hospital. Now, this is according to a member of Congress who is talking to military whistleblowers. Significant elements of the distributed command ground system, a network of computers and sensors designed to knit together separate strands of intelligence, were offline in Afghanistan when U.S. commanders approved the airstrike this past October 3rd. That killed 22 staff, patients, and other Doctors Without Borders victims. Now, Representative Duncan Hunter wrote Tuesday to the Defense Secretary Ash Carter disclosing everything. So, could it have been averted? That's the question. Well, nobody was communicating to each other in our military during the airstrike. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, live in the studio, Michael Gregorian. He is right here, live in the bunker. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. It's going to be a great evening, open conversation. We got a lot to discuss. Email us, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow us at jchurchradio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Stay right there. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping, and I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best, and that the flavors were something that I could create myself, and we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of fruity, loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code JimmyLive. That's Jimmy, L-I-V-E, for the Fadernaut special. The website, coavapor.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
All right, you Fadernauts. Studio Dome has done it once again. A new Studio Dome Fadernaut special. Introducing the Studio Dome Boom Box Bluetooth speaker. It's got a rear-firing bass film subwoofer and dual 52-millimeter main speakers. You'll never listen to your tablet or cell phone speakers again. Just click on the Studio Dome banner, use the promo code Jimmy, and you'll get the SBB for $49 and free shipping. And get a Buddy 4-port USB charger for free. That's a $19.99 value right there. And they'll throw in a Buddy in the box. It's the best deal on the net anywhere. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner, enter the promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, we have live, right here in the bunker, comedian Michael Gregorian is with us. We'll be taking your calls in a little bit. 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. Michael Gregorian is a comedian from Glendale, California, which here in Southern California by default makes you Armenian. Michael has been performing and producing comedy for the last 5 years and is also the creator of Armenian Nights Comedy. Ever since a young age, where he has described what his introduction to Comedy 101 would be, he would sneak into his room to listen to Eddie Murphy, Delirious, and Raw, like we all did. His early experience, along with being shown what was real comedy by his uncle, he encouraged him and his cousin to listen to everyone from Sam Kinison to Andrew Dice Clay. Man, I got some Dice Clay stories. We'll talk about that tonight. And realize that comedy was a reflection of his surrounding and times and was a narrative to the public. What most people don't know about Michael Gregorian is he has researched ufology. He has researched conspiracy. And the first thing that I nearly want to ask is how Armenians react to the UFO question and stuff. And we'll get to all of that tonight. But first, I would like to welcome to Fade to Black, Michael Gregorian. Michael, how are you?
What's up, guys?
Oh, there you go. Now you're live.
Now I'm live. Good.
Now you're live.
Nice.
Now you're live.
Right. You would think you would know what you're doing after doing it for so long.
Yeah. You know what's funny is Gregorian. I just constantly think of the cosmonaut Gagarin.
Right.
And that's why. And it's funny. It's
right.
Close. Is there a relation?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I know. You understand where I'm going.
I do. I do know where you're going.
Okay. And
because
so
people
does the
also
audience.
ask me with the, what about the Gregorian calendar? Yes, my dad created the calendar.
Oh, Gregorian monks.
Yeah, right.
Can you hum? Right?
No, but I am bald, so it's pretty close to monks.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And for our audience out there, I want you to confirm a couple of things.
Sure.
One, we're in a bunker.
We are in a bunker, indeed.
There is no windows.
There are no windows.
There's no circulation.
Unfortunately, there's no circulation in here,
and it is indeed dark.
It is very dark. I don't even know where I'm at.
It's cool, isn't it?
I do. All I see are a picture of an alien with bacon on the wall.
Yes, yes. That confirms to the audience right there.
It does.
You are indeed live right now in the studio.
Yeah, and actually, I have something to confess. Just like Subway, I have something to confess to. I'm quitting smoking marijuana. But I'm going to do it over the next 20 years. So it's going to take a little bit at a time.
Commitment. That's
a little bit at a time.
That's a commitment.
Right.
Can you get through it?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, it's something that you can't. 20 years is a good plan because you just can't cold turkey. You can't go.
You got to ease into these things.
Yeah, you got to.
You can't just go full bore.
Can you imagine the sweats if you just had to do it in a day?
I know. But here's the thing. What I want to know is what was in the Subway food that prompted them to just come out and say, "Well, we're not gonna kill you anymore." So we're going to do it slowly.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up because I talk about, let's go in this direction really quick. I talk about GMOs and the changing of our food all the time on the show. And what I'm shocked about, this is what I don't understand. Mother Nature is a bitch.
Right.
And if you are going to alter what got us here,
right,
nature knows and your body knows. It's just the way it is. We got here by eating and consuming and breathing and drinking
regular food.
Everything, and if you're going to go and start altering it, we don't know 50 years from now what that would mean.
We're the canary in the coal mine for these things.
Exactly right.
I mean, you got to think about it. Have you ever sat there and thought about when you grab a chicken breast, like I was eating a chicken breast the other day, how gigantic is this chicken that the chicken breast is like twice the size of my fist? You don't think about it because you're just like, oh, that's how chickens are. But if you were to go and look at an actual chicken,
they can't walk.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? To the chicken manufacturers, they're not big enough.
Right. They need it. They need more.
They need more.
Yeah.
And that's what's really frightening. But altering everything around us just a little bit. When we look at the concept of time travel, and they always, refer to if you go back and alter one little thing, right? Like if you come back,
of time is going to be,
you come back with a pen from Shakespeare's desk,
right?
And you come back, 400 years later, and it's nuclear Armageddon,
right? Because of a pen,
you remove this one pen,
right?
It's the same thing with GMOs. If you go and alter one little thing in corn or in wheat or in chickens or whatever, you don't know what kind of ripple effect that's going to have on the world, 50 or 100 years from now and on human beings. Why change it?
Yeah.
That's
money. I mean, that's the thing is, they alternate the food that they're being given. Then they're eating that food, and in turn they're digesting it. And the next thing you know, we're getting the crap that they put in the food because they wanted to make the food cheaper and they wanted their respectable animal to be larger. And then here we are. Well, didn't they come out and say 70% of the chicken in the United States has carcinogens in it? Didn't the USDA just come out and say that?
Yes, they just said that
like,
last
isn't that the
week.
most alarming thing in the world?
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
It's the worst.
Yes. I have a couple of addictions, and I admit, I love food.
Right.
Number two, I love things like cereal. I like Oreos and milk. I like fast food. I love In-N-Out. And I like tacos, and I like going out, and I like fast food. But in the last 5 years or 10 years, it doesn't taste the same to me now. It doesn't. Growing up in the United States and going to a Burger King or a Wendy's or a McDonald's, the food tasted different. Why? A lot of different reasons. One, they used like animal lard to make their French fries. Well, that's what made it taste good.
Yeah.
I don't care about the heart attack. You know what? It tastes good to me. But those little altering of food cooking and food prep.
It's changed things, and you can tell.
It doesn't taste the same.
Right.
And, have you ever driven, you're from Southern California.
I am.
And you know what? We'll get to your background in a second. We
forget about all that. Let's just
we segued right into the conversation.
Let's get right into the chickens. Come on.
This is what's great about live conversation. But you've driven around in Northern California, and you've seen those massive herds of cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And when you drive by that, all you can think of it, how many of those is McDonald's going through by the hour?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Think about that. And how many different cows could be in one burger?
Right.
How many different chickens are involved in one chicken McNugget?
Right.
Having one breast cooked is okay. That's one thing you can kind of wrap your head around. But everything else, and it is done in such a massive scale.
It has to be bad, If they're scaling up in that, and they're ramping up that much, then they've got to be doing something. Because bottom line is corporations and things like that, they operate on making profits every single year. They can't have an even year, and they can't have, a lower year, or else their company isn't doing good. So they have to find ways to cut corners, to make it, a lot easier.
What are they? McDonald's, all of the fast food chains, they've all lost sight of what made them great.
Right.
What made them great was a burger, fries, and a chocolate shake. A burger, fries, and a Coke, right?
Yeah.
Now there's 80,000 menu items that are impossible to do, and to do that, you have to do it on a mass scale, and it is mass produced.
Yeah.
In-N-Out, locally sourced, locally grown.
Same thing for the
there was
20-something years.
Go to an In-N-Out and ask for chili on your burger.
Yeah.
There's no salads. There's no apples.
Right.
There's there's none of. You get a shake, a Coke, order fries, and a burger. How would you like that, sir?
Yeah.
And it's all locally sourced, nothing frozen, nothing, and it tastes good.
And they don't have to use gimmicks like the black bun that they got going on now, where it gives you the
I heard about
diarrhea.
Yes, I heard about that. That. Well, just looking at that, it doesn't look like it should be edible.
It does not look appealing whatsoever. I've never thought to myself, you know what? I could really go for a black burger.
Or make it, what would be less, more appealing? A blue burger?
No, a burger with nails in it.
Yeah,
look at these burger with nails coming out of it. Nothing like a good nail burger.
And you look at down the street from the studio here, as you know, we have an In-N-Out.
Right.
Right down the street from that is a McDonald's. That In-N-Out, you can't park, you can't drive, you can't get down the street. There is 1,000 people waiting for burgers any time of the day till they close.
Yeah.
McDonald's is a ghost town.
Aren't they losing franchises? Aren't they losing money where they're shutting down
for the first time? Yeah,
right.
The last couple of years, it's gone way down. There's no way that. See, that's the thing, and this was the point of all of this. I got sideways. Is this the response from the big chains? Like Chipotle was the first one to step up, but now General Mills and McDonald's is responding. Subway, everybody's now trying to get into this non-GMO thing because you know what? GMOs was chasing the money. Now you know what's chasing the money? To go non-GMO, to increase business, to go the other way. They're not doing it for our health.
No, and how bad of a statement is that?
Right, I know. That's what's crazy about it.
Yeah.
They're not doing it because they care about us.
No, not at all.
No, they want it. It's their bottom line.
Well, we're losing money, so we might start listening to you guys.
Yes.
So we don't know.
Exactly
if they're making the same amount of money, they would never take away the GMOs. They would make it extra GMO.
I remember I worked, my first gig was McDonald's, right? And my father had worked for McDonald's, my stepdad. And so I get this gig at McDonald's. And I was there when they changed the lard, right? They went from lard, animal fat, in their fries to
corn, right? Isn't it?
It's vegetable oil. And I remember that first day when we changed the oil in the fryers. And I tasted those fries, and they went from being the most delectable, delicious, salivating, mouth-watering, nothing like taking those McDonald's fries and dipping them in your chocolate shake. Just to these
and
tasteless
chocolate shake. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's
you clearly love food.
Yeah, it's the way to go.
I didn't even think of that.
We'll do it after the show tonight.
Yeah, we will actually.
To these tasteless French fries, and they don't even remotely resemble to what they used to be.
No, they're like puny and
it's that flavor, that animal fat flavor.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they switched over, but it makes sense.
They should switch back. It's been 30 years. They should switch back.
Well, stop buying fries, and then they'll make less money, and then they'll change it.
The people that don't eat French fries, or no, the people that will be concerned about that don't eat French fries.
Yeah.
So what's it to you?
Yeah.
Okay, give me my animal fat. Yeah. I'm okay with cooking them in lard. It's what I enjoy. If you don't want to eat it, don't eat it.
Yeah.
Go. Right. Have your apple slices and your walnuts. Okay, go. Anyway, okay, so let's how did you get into this? I want to start there because the scariest, I think, for any comedian or wannabe comedian, somebody that knows that they're funny and they hear from their friends growing up,
Right.
dude, you are the funniest dude ever.
Yeah.
That to take that first step to get up on stage,
Very scary.
It's
Very
the worst.
scary.
It's
Yeah.
not like playing guitar.
Right.
You only have you and the microphone between
It's
you
very
and
naked.
certain death.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
That's the thing. And, you know, you try and do your first time at like an open mic, which is other fellow comedians that are looking to do their 4 or 5 minutes and, you know, work their sets or stuff like that. It's like a practice, for lack of a better term. So the first time was in front of there, but it's still very, very scary because you have to go up there and just be naked. And like you said, you can't hide behind an instrument. You can't hide behind they can't hide behind a lead singer or a guitar or bass. It's just you and them. So it is very naked. It is very, it's exciting. It is.
What was it like that first time?
The first time, geez, let me try and remember. It was just nerves, just trying to get through it and not throwing up and not crying before I get onto the stage. So
Did you make it?
I did, and I cried on stage. So it was that was part of my act. I was crying on stage. I did that for the first 3 years, and it didn't work.
Now, what do you do? I was thinking about this when I was reading Leonard Skinner's, plane crash today,
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking of the proverbial heckler at a rock club. Free bird, right? In the back.
Right.
Oh, what do you do with that? Have you ever had a heckler yell "free bird"?
No, I haven't had a heckler yell Freebird. But I tend to, if someone wants to try and engage you, what you try and do is don't give them the power. Don't give into the emotion that they're giving to you. So if they're like, trying to piss you off or trying to throw you off, I just try and just, act like I didn't even hear them. Act like you're just, just going through with whatever you're going through, because the point that you do actually give them, the power and stop the show and start doing all the stuff, then that's when they win. And that's when it brings your show to a halt. So, and the show isn't about them. The show is about me, which is what I love, which is why I do it. But, you don't want to engage them. You don't want to be the guy that derails everything, starts talking to guys. So
there are comedians that are really good with hecklers. They almost encourage it.
Right.
Are you cool with that?
Well, I was talking about that with a couple of fellow comics. There's doing that, then there's also doing crowd work, which is, a whole skill in and of by itself is actually engaging someone and talking. We were talking about this the other night, that, there is that sense of it's very, okay, what we're doing is already naked as it is. And what we're doing is we're saying things that are already thought up beforehand for the most part. But when we start doing the crowd work and we start going into the crowd, you're actually being a little bit more naked. So it's a little bit like thrilling and it's a little bit exciting. And, there are comics that do that like, have a certain part where they know that this is going to garner a response. So then I can say this over here, but then I'm just going to go off the cuff over here. So to answer your question, it is very, it's exciting to do it. And I try, the more comfortable you get with your own self on stage, the more you explore and try and do new things to try and, make it a whole thing. Because when you do go off the cuff and you start talking to people, it makes it where it's a very natural thing. And everybody in the room knows that you don't already have this made up. Like you're commenting on his black hat because he's wearing a black hat in front of you. It wasn't that you already thought of it. So doing that gives the whole sense of the audience that, okay, this is a fresh thing that we're doing. And it draws the attention away from, I already have this stuff written down and I'm just repeating this stuff in a certain order and such. So
is there, is it, okay, I'm going to go with a cultural kind of thing here. Do Armenians heckle?
Every minute of every day is an Armenian heckle. Yeah. They're always just giving their opinion when it's not even wanted or needed.
But
so I find it less, to be honest with you, because I have two different, I do two different types of shows. In the Armenian show, I find that they're less likely to do it, but given alcohol, anybody's going to do it.
Sure. So heckling is more of an American cultural thing that.
Yeah, I think, you know what it is? I think it's more of just when someone's drunk, someone's there, they don't respect you and they don't care about what's going on. Whereas our Armenian audience, they're more coming, for support of the show. So it's more of like they're respecting the artist that's on stage. But I wouldn't want to say that it's all like, white people.
No, I'm not implying that at all.
But I do understand what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And now, what about the tradition of stand-up comedy in Armenia itself? Are there comedy clubs in Yerevan?
There's more comedy groups, like troops. They call them comedy clubs because when you translate it, it's actually literally clubs. But they have more, a couple groups like 32 Teeth. I know when you translate the name, it doesn't have 32 Teeth is like this really good comedy thing, but
that would be funny in English anyway. That's actually pretty good.
I'm from a comedy group, Two Arms, and this is our opening act. There's two legs over here and 32 teeth.
But right now in Yerevan, is there a guy that calls himself the Armenian Sam Kinison, for instance?
I don't know. That's a very good question, to be honest with you. I know I'm aware of more troops than I am of individual comedians. I'm sure there are individual comedians, and I'm sure whoever's listening right now that's Armenian is yelling at the radio and yelling at the internet. But there are Armenian comedians. Not very aware.
Now, this is what I find pretty amazing about Armenian culture. One of my producers his name's Hilton. He's black, right?
Okay.
And I asked him one day live on the air. I said, "So, what's up with black people and UFOs?" "Oh no, man, no, we don't see UFOs." "Well, what if you did? Wouldn't talk about it, And it was really funny. I
wonder
just
why that is.
Yeah, it's just like that. They know it. They don't even want to talk about it. And I find that really interesting. And I've had a few black researchers and stuff that I've had on the show that I've talked, physicists and Ronald Mallet, black physicist that does time travel and Reverend Michael Carter is another one that he's on Ancient Aliens and stuff. But when it comes to Armenians, when it comes to that part of the fringe and the paranormal,
right?
They're right there with me on.
Yeah, that's true. Now that you say that, now that I think about it, it's true. I think because. I don't know. That's a good question. Why are they? I think it's more accepted as a culture, more of the supernatural, of the paranormal, of the spirit world, of that kind of a thing, of, something other than what we're seeing here is around us. I think that there's that sense of, the way that we're brought up and everything with that. So I would think that would lead us to be more open about it. And I would think the other thing would be, in Russia, Russians are very open with the whole...
Completely.
Exactly. So since we were a part of Russia for a certain period of time and, most Armenians speak Russian and they have a lot of Russian influence and culture, I think that also plays into it too. It's just, the way that you're brought up probably, goes into it.
Now, you've had a couple of sightings.
Yes.
And have you, and I want to know about those. We're going to be up against a break in a second. But how old were you when you had your sighting?
Actually, it wasn't that long ago. It was my, I think I had one as a kid. I say I think because it's one of those things where you're looking back and your mind's eye is trying to see what you think happened.
Right.
But I know for a fact that I saw it when I was driving to Arizona not even a year ago.
And okay, so did you discuss this with friends and family?
Not really,
Why?
Because they think I'm crazy.
Right.
So, but no, my friends
they know now.
Yeah, they know now. Like they didn't get it when they're talking to me that I'm crazy. I think what it is I discuss these kind of things with the people that I know I'm not going to get some sort of like a backlash or some sort of an argument, because who wants to sit there with friends? It's like talking politics. UFO is a lot like politics and religion.
It is.
Because there's a very black and white way of looking at it. It's very, it either it is or it isn't. So it's not like people are like, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about aliens, but I'm also very religious. It's like the two kind of don't mix together. So I do talk about it with my friends that already are people that, know that that's how I'm thinking. So, and that's only one person. So.
Well,
and he's dead.
The point when you come to the point of wanting to discuss it with friends or family, you need to really make a decision of
is it worth it, kind of a thing,
because there's no going back.
Yeah, there isn't. Once Pandora's box is open,
it is completely wide open, and they'll never look at you the same. I'll say this: my, as you know, my family, my family around me here, it's all Armenian.
Yes,
and they can't wait to talk to me or to listen to the next show, or when are you going to be on Coast again?
Right.
They are listening, and they have questions.
With intrigue, and they're listening, and they're open to it.
I was sitting with my mother-in-law, and it was I think it was the season premiere of Hangar 1.
Okay.
So we're downstairs, and we got the family together, and there's probably 15 of us, right? And my mom, I don't want to give up her age, but let's say she's between 70 and 80. Okay.
Okay.
I love you, Mom. And so she's watching this thing, and stuff is getting translated to her, so she understands everything. She speaks English,
but it's better
it's
when
rapid
you
fire.
Culturally, explain it.
And she spins around to me, and she goes, "Did that really happen? Did that really happen?" And I was like, she was so into the story.
But open to it, though.
Yes, completely. And
that's the thing.
Just was shocked that something like that was out there. Oh, do you remember? I know you do. I think it was Medvedev, the Russian vice president or president, about a year ago said off camera, the microphones were still live. He said on the Russian news that when you are given the office of president, you're given a special briefcase that has all of the information on aliens in it.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
I don't.
Oh.
That's actually really interesting. I can't believe I didn't hear about that.
Well, when it happened, we're going to be up against a break. When that happened, that was on Russian news like 24 hours a day for a month.
Yeah. That wouldn't happen here.
And no. Yeah. And that's the part of the openness that you were talking about with the Russians and that part of the world. It's like they are wanting to get it out there.
I think it's most countries, now that I think about it. Now that I think about the different cultures that are like kind of open to it. You hear about it, alien stuff that happens in Germany or stuff that happens in Mexico a lot of the times.
Brazil.
Mexico City, Brazil. Even in certain parts of Asia, you hear about that happening, but you hear about it on national news. You hear about it, and they're reporting it from a credible mainstream. I mean, how credible is mainstream media, but for lack of a better term, from a credible place, and they're just completely open about it, just like you're saying.
And they don't end the news story with a joke,
right?
It's like roll the X-Files music, and then they crack a joke.
Spooky over here, and they got the little, the little thing, the animation that's like all making it silly. It's that kind of subliminal thing where they're telling you, but they're like, and it's all kind of BS anyways.
Right. And they'll always end it with a joke, little laugh, like you're saying, okay, I'll keep my eyes to the skies.
You're like,
yeah. Oh, man. Okay, let's take a break. We're up against the break. Let's do it. This is Fade to Black tonight. Michael Gregorian, comedian, is with us live here in the bunker. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at jchurchradio. More with Michael Gregorian when we come back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air, to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's all here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I had a live mic open. Did you guys hear all of that? I hope it wasn't any bad language. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight we have live in the studio comedian Michael Gregorian. And before we get back to that, oh, you know what? Let's just jump in feet first. What's your next show?
I have a show on Thursday at the Mystery Box. It's my own show that I produce with two friends of mine, Dandy April and Frank Trainer. It's called Graffiti, and it's BYOB, bring your own weed, $5 to get in. It's LA, it's in a hipster area part of town. So, and that's coming up on Thursday at 9 o'clock.
Is it easier to, I want to get straight into your Arizona sighting, but just for me, is it easier to perform in front of a non-Armenian crowd? Is the Armenian crowd rough? I've seen it. I've seen it myself, and I was thinking, man, you know, it's like their expectations might be a little bit high.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny that you bring that up. In the beginning, it was they're definitely like, not only are they sitting there with their arms crossed, but they're emotionally sitting there with their arms crossed, and they're looking for you to like, okay, what do you have for me, bro? So it's like, if you don't bring up the fact that, you know, we're all in a room with a bunch of Armenians, I'm Armenian, these are Armenian things, then the rest of your set just goes like where they're not listening to. Because I've had comedians that are definitely funny, and they kill on their own an American crowd, and they'd get up there and they're Armenian, and they don't address anything about the Armenian part of it. The rest of their set went horrible. I had them on 2 months later. They did like, 2 minutes worth of Armenian stuff at the top, and the rest of the time the crowd was with you. So I think what it is you just have to acknowledge them and kind of like emotionally stroke their back and stroke their ego. And then they're like, because they like to feel exclusive and like, this is for us, bro. No one else is here. Let's talk about stuff with us. So It's different challenges for different audiences. So
what do you do when, and I know the culture and I love it and I embrace it, but what do you do when you get the bro guy that comes up and he goes, oh, you're the funny guy, bro. Tell me a joke.
Oh, God, everybody does that.
Right.
Everybody does that. It's like, you don't, go up to a mechanic and hand him a wrench. Here, fix this. You don't. It's just, it has to be in a context and a setting that is a stand-up show. But, that always happens. My mom's been doing that to me for years. Tell us a joke. Tell our friends a joke. And, oh, he's a comedian. Tell us a joke. It's like, well, it's not like that. So it's like someone coming to you on the street and going, hey, go do 30 minutes of radio for me right here into my phone.
That's right.
It's not those, that's not how it works.
It's not. Hey, okay. What do you call an Armenian that doesn't eat meat? A vegetarian. That's my Armenian joke. You can use that. That's yours.
Okay. I will on Thursday.
Write that
I will.
down. Yeah, write
for
that
sure.
down.
I'm completely writing that down.
All right, let's go to Arizona. let's change gears. Let's go to Arizona. What did you see?
Well, I had an internship because I was going to school for radiology, and I had an internship that was at Parker, Arizona, which is right on the border of California and Arizona, and it's right by an Indian reservation. So to get there, it takes about 3 or 4 hours of just straight through the desert driving.
Right.
And I remember I was driving to Arizona, and I'm always looking in the sky for if this, oh my God, did this thing move? Did this thing blink? Did this thing, so I'm kind of always looking for that. And, there's nothing in front of me. So I'm just looking up at the thing. And I see what appears to be, a star, and it blinked a couple times. It didn't look anything out of the ordinary, but it jumped all the way across the sky, like in front of my skyline in like a matter of like a couple seconds, and then stood there for a while. Did another little zigzag and then took off. But it was all like really fast and instantaneous. So it was one of those things where if you weren't watching, if you weren't looking in that direction, you wouldn't have caught it. But the thing definitely moved and in a speed and in a way that normally doesn't move. Because, when you look up, you always like, okay, that's a plane, or that's something,
of course,
or that's a this, or that's the that. Your brain automatically makes, tells you exactly what it is. But in this scenario, it just jumped across, jumped a little bit over to the left again, and then took off. And there was no one with me for me to go, did you see that?
Right.
Right. Ooh, it's just me.
Well, what did you think you saw at that moment?
I honestly, when it shot across, my brain automatically registered this is something that isn't a star. This isn't something that you normally would see. So I immediately thought this has definitely got to be UFO. I mean, what other explanation could there be?
What was that drive like after that? Were you just
I was freaking out.
Dark,
I was looking. Yeah, I pretty much looked straight ahead for like 5 minutes of that 3-hour ride. The rest of the time, my head was just on a swivel, on a pivot, looking up, looking around. And because it is in an area that's just really flat and stuff like that, then my brain started going, okay, well, why is it here? What's around here? What base is around here? What's the purpose? What the fuck's so you have to think of all the different scenarios. So
right.
It was more of trying to break it down and trying to convince myself, is what I saw what I saw, or was it just I wanted to see that? So I kind of think now that I'm recalling that it zagged across the sky.
What's strange about that area? It's a pretty magical part of the United States.
It is.
Joshua Tree. Mm-hmm. You have the desert. Mm-hmm. You have,
and that's what went through my mind.
Yeah, there has been there's such a history of dynamic things going down out there. The Indians have always talked about it. There's a high probability if you go out there and hang out and look and just want to see something or invite it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I had a similar sighting with a group of friends out there too as well. Mm-hmm. And it was similar to yours, but in the opposite direction. It went from the ground up into the stars. And it was just a party. But the point is, it was a white light that there was a bunch of things that you could cross off the list. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't an airplane. It wasn't those. It wasn't that, because there was no trail. There was no sparks. It was just a white light that went from the ground into space in a straight line, and it lasted a couple of seconds, maybe. It went a great distance
in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the little mental checklist I was making too. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was making that little mental check. It's like, was it this? Was it that? The conclusion was it wasn't something that I'm used to seeing.
So when you've studied UFOs and conspiracy and all of that, was this a moment for you to go, well, holy crap?
Yeah,
this
like
stuff
an aha moment. Like, I knew
this is real.
It was, but it wasn't like that was the thing that made me like really truly think that there is, stuff that we can't explain and stuff that we can't think of. But it was definitely like a confirmation in my head. It was one of those like, finally, because I've been looking for a long time.
What was the thing that convinced you?
Just, throughout the years, reading stuff. I mean, definitely reading, William Cooper's book, Behold the Pale Horse. That definitely opened my eyes to a different direction. And then, as you go, with the day and age that we're at now, you get into a wormhole. Next thing you know, you're on YouTube looking at, some alien stuff. So I wouldn't say there's one event in particular. I would say it's just an accumulation of things, and as you get older, you try and find things that support your theories that you had of the way that you think. So then you actually are genuinely thinking that, not just like, I'm blindly going to believe in this thing.
Right.
You kind of want to look at things and, get some sort of evidence in a way. So it wasn't one specific thing.
Did you read Bill now I can't talk. Bill Cooper's book before he died?
I'm not. When did he die? How long ago?
He died
in
in 2001, right after the.
Oh no, I read it before that.
You read it before that?
Yeah.
So then when?
Right around that time is actually when I read it. Like right around 99, 2000, 2001.
Did you just say to yourself they took him out?
Definitely. That's the very first thing, because it's one of those things where they keep saying, hey, listen, this is going to happen. And then it happens. You're like, well, how obvious is that? Even though, because he's been saying this whole time that this is going to happen. Wasn't it on his property?
Yes, it was in front of his
guys
house.
in black suits.
Yeah, I think actually when it wasn't. It was the local sheriff,
right?
That shot and killed him, and his posse,
right? But on his property,
on his property, his house was on a little hill,
right?
And I think he might have had a neighbor or two, but anyway, he had this pretty sizable piece of property up on this hill, and what had gone on for a little bit of time right before that was these kids were, what he thought were kids, were playing loud music from like a pickup truck or a car down at the entrance to his property. And excuse me. And it was starting to bother him.
Right.
And he'd go out and tell them to, keep the music down. Well, and then they showed up again. Well, it was the police, and they were trying to get
flush him out a little bit.
Yeah, because one of his neighbors had went in and claimed. I believe I would have to go back and check this out again. But that he was brandishing a weapon, or he threatened them.
Something to give them some sort of probable cause to come over there, so it doesn't look too fishy.
So they're trying to flush him out of the house. And how do you flush him out of the house? Well, sit down at the front gate, play some loud music, and act like you're partying. Get him to come out. And that's what they did. Well, they chased him up to his property. I think he had a gun. And then he turned around and he shot a deputy, and I think that's how it went down. I could be wrong, but then they chased him down and gunned him down in front of his house.
But see, doesn't that all sound a little bit too convenient for everything? Like, look, the guy had a gun. Look, the guy shot at us. What do you want us to do?
Yeah, he was taken out.
Exactly. So
he was taken out.
How do we know that that's the order of events, or those are actually what happened?
Well, for Bill, his legacy was tarnished because what mass media made him out to be was this gun-toting, revolutionary, armed, what's the word that I want to use? What do they call those groups in Montana?
Militias?
Yeah, militia. He was some kind of militia guy. I just had
which
a brain
is what
freeze.
they do. They make you think that the guy's crazy, so then it discredits everything that he's saying. Like the what was it? The 8th guy that was on the moon, the astronaut that's come out plenty of times and said that there's definitely, aliens out there.
Edgar Mitchell.
Edgar Mitchell, and they make him out to be this crazy, kooky guy.
Right. Well, he might be.
Right. Well,
but
part of it.
Right? I love Edgar. His legacy was tarnished with that, but part of that was his fault.
Right.
Because he went away from all of the original Bill Cooper stuff in the beginning.
Away from the message.
The UFOs and MJ-12 and Majestic, and he had seen stuff in the Navy, and he had information. And he kind of got away from that when he was going into the Bin Laden stuff pre 9/11, when he was going into international terrorism theories and the Illuminati, and which he had that message all along, but he kind of went off message there. And so the last thing that you say is what people remember. And that's what mass media picked up on, that Bill Cooper was a militia guy. He wasn't.
No.
But he made the mistake of talking about that leading up to, the months before 9/11 and right before his death.
Right.
So that made him a militia guy.
Well, it made it easier for them, for their story. Give him some rope, he'll just go ahead and hang himself.
Right,
and then,
right.
Look, the guy's crazy. What do you want to do?
Right. It did. When you read Pale Horse, were you at that point already into ufology? Or
I would say that there had already been, things that I was looking at, the theories that I had, thoughts that I had, a certain way of thinking, and that what that did is kind of solidified it. Because speaking exactly what you're saying, I think what the appeal for Cooper's book was that it was very factual, in a sense, where it had, the documents that were, photocopied in the back and for release, and it had a little bit more of like a credibility to it. Like, I was here, this is what I saw, this is what happened, these are these guys, this is that. So I think once he did started getting away from that a little bit, maybe he did kind of change his original message. But it did definitely, it solidified it all, where I'm like, okay, this is one book that's given everything right here, and it's coming from a seemingly credible source.
Did you have somebody in your life that was feeding you this stuff? Who gave you Pale Horse?
One of my best friends gave it to. His name is Reen, and
Armenian.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his mother had given him that book, and his mom was a teacher. So his mom was an Armenian teacher, so it's a very conservative,
So
position,
in Glendale, California, there's a dog-eared copy of Pale Horse that was passed around the Armenian community.
That's true.
Wow.
The Armenian community. Just two of us. The whole community had it. Me and him.
Yeah.
Both of us.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And what about Sitchin?
That comes more from, as you're doing a little bit more research and finding out about where the whole thinking and where the chariots of the cod comes from and everything. It's like we're saying that it all comes from basically one guy's interpretation of, what was said. So that guy has an interpretation, and then the next guy, writes chariots of the gods and everything, and then everybody comes. It's one of those things where you do the research to find out, okay, where is all of this information coming from? Then you find the next thing, you're like, all right, where's this coming from? It has to start somewhere, and then it's been so many years since I read it, but I'm sure that it was in Cooper's book, right, where he talked about the Sumerian text. And
yes.
Right. And then, with the day and age that we're at now, you kind of do your own research and you kind of find things.
Now, with that, one thing does lead to another and lead to another and lead to another. And it's kind of funny how you go down different rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But then you go and you read somebody like Sitchin after Pale Horse, and you start to think, you know what, there is... If I'm finding it out here, and I didn't find it out in school, I don't hear about the news talking about it, I can't get it from other sources, that maybe everything that you know is wrong.
Yeah, just out the window.
Right.
It's that kind of thing that you're like, oh my God, what's really going on,
And so what do you do about that?
That's been the question that, that's the $1 million question. What do you do with this information? What can you physically do with this information? I mean, I think the answer to what can you do with this information is really, in a way, nothing. Like, you can't take this and go to a store and turn it in, or you can't, take this to your representatives of, your district or whatever. But what you can do is you can take that, you can form your own opinions about it, make your own, make your own opinions, and just spread the word out. Like, talk to other people about it, see what it is, see what it isn't, that kind of thing. So I think giving out the information is the best thing you can do with it. But what can you really physically do about the Majestic 12 right now sitting in this room? Nothing. But what you can do is spread it and, talk about it a little bit more. So,
and what do you do? Because, you're a comedian, you're studying culture and you're commenting on culture.
Right.
So you're always gathering information. Yeah. You're always observing. How do you get your news if you know that the news is, total
that's really
BS?
Good. That's why I never comment on the news. I don't really talk about, what's on news, because, I guess I get news the same way a lot of other people do, through Reddit and through different sources and, the Daily Show and stuff that you like. But, I do look at everything with definitely a huge grain of salt, where you're like, what is, like you said, let's flip this over and look at the belly of this thing. When you said that, I was like, oh my God, that's a good way of thinking, because that really is like, all right, here's the story, but what's really going on behind the story? So you have to kind of think, all right, what's, you know, what can I take from this that's the truth? How much of this can I leave alone that's BS?
Yeah, it's so funny that I have absolutely developed this weird sense, this next extrasensory sense of whenever I hear something, I just go, okay, what's the opposite of that? That's all I need.
9 times out of 10, that's probably
that's all
the
I
truth.
need. Well, look, GMO corn is safe.
Right.
No, it's not.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what it is. You know, and I make these jokes all the time, but it's so easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Ebola, look out! It's coming to the United States. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be an outbreak.
Right.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. Whatever the fear thing approach is coming at you, flip it over, and it's going to be okay. You're going to find out something that's closer to the truth.
And 9 times out of 10, if you follow the money, I know it's an old cliche thing, but if you try and think,
it's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's a cliche to say it, but there's a lot of truth behind it where you're like, okay, let's follow the money. Why are they doing this? What happened that, you know, or why are they telling me this thing? Because there's probably like a whole other ulterior motive to everything. It's not like, you know, they're just going to come out and tell you everything up front.
One of the shocking things, I would love your comment on this. One of the shocking things for me that was so blatant, so obvious, is when we invaded Iraq the second time with Bush Jr. And we go and invade. And I heard somebody comment, it was a politician, it might have been Cheney, it might have been Bush, one of those cats. Somebody said, well, no problem. You know, we're going to bomb them into the Stone Age, but we're going to go in and rebuild their infrastructure.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I went, there's the money play.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the money play.
Right.
Let's just go.
Yeah.
I can just see the Halliburton cats and everybody else sitting around a table going, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
We've got your back. We'll supply the manpower. We'll get the ships loaded up with all of the stuff. We'll get all the construction gear. We'll pave the roads. We'll rebuild the water. We'll rebuild the electrical systems. We'll go in and take care of everything.
Which makes no sense.
And
we'll demolish it and then rebuild it.
But that's
then don't demolish it to begin with.
Yeah, that's the money play.
Exactly.
That's the money play.
Yeah.
It was like, really?
Yeah.
And nobody, it was shocking how nobody wanted to talk about the different companies that were going in there and profiting off of this war.
Right.
Nobody, and not necessarily in mass media, but no journalists like really stepped up and
did their
spoke,
due diligence and like really
and
look
yelled
into
about it because they couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, those stories are done by committee.
Yeah.
So again, so you don't trust the news. You don't go to the news. You don't listen to the news.
I don't really. I mean, does anybody nowadays? Not really at all. You know, because there's just been so many times where you're like, this is complete and utter, you know, horse doo-doo. This is not what's real. And wasn't it just reading about it where the CIA documents saying that Blair and Bush prior to 9/11 were talking about how they're going to make this war in Iraq and how what they're going to do, what steps are they going to take. I think it was it from the CIA guy that just got his stuff back, or was it from somewhere else?
Well, and the strange thing about that was us, everybody knew that Bush was going to go in and start that war. He needed an excuse.
Yeah.
9/11 happened. Now, the conspiracy behind 9/11,
right?
Which I don't subscribe to a lot of the more fantastical things. You know, it was holograms. The planes weren't real, or nuclear bombs and tactical nuclear. I don't buy into that. But what I think is a greater conspiracy, something that is more harmful, is just the simple fact that Bush knew in advance that it was going to happen.
Right.
That Saudi Arabia knew in advance that it was going to happen.
Right.
That is the conspiracy. That is what is, if that is true, and I believe it to be, then that is the devil. That is satanic. That is awful. And that is the real conspiracy.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, so when we're dealing with Blair and Bush talking about this in advance, that part of the conspiracy where they were waving the CIA letter around that was from a South African government selling uranium out in the open market.
Very Back to the Future storyline.
Yeah, to Iraq, and that they were going to acquire nuclear weapons, and they had the letter, right? The British, produced this letter.
Yeah.
Well, that's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And that was done, Blair knew it wasn't true. He knew this was a CIA fabricated document, but he didn't have a problem with doing that. That is the bigger conspiracy here. And I think that people ignore some of the, when Colin Powell gets up and he's waving the vial of anthrax, right?
Yeah, ooh, the boogeyman, look at this. You can put your eyes on it.
And they knew it wasn't real.
No.
They knew.
And the way that Cheney was just all, trying to gather everybody's support, and the way that he's just so absolute that there are weapons of mass destruction. Like, they're saying it as if they already saw it and we just got to go get it. We already know exactly where it's at. It's like someone trying to convince you to go back and grab your cell phone. I know exactly where it's at. It's inside on my dresser. It's like they were so sure and they're so absolute. And it was complete and utter the opposite of what was the actual truth. But nobody's saying anything like that. No one's going, wait a second. Weren't you the one saying, I'm positive, I am positive? And it just, exactly, it makes the conspiracy and it makes everything, a lot more thin. That's where you start going, hey, what if everything they're telling us is BS? What if everything they're...
So what do you think when events like this happen, not only 9/11, but Iraq and Syria and what's going on in Crimea, just these world events that are happening all of the time, about the NWO, Illuminati, Fourth Reich influence that is going on right in front of us? Is that part of what solidifies that argument?
I think so. I think it does. I mean, it just starts becoming so obvious, and it starts becoming so thin, their argument and everything. They're saying that you're just like, you'd be an idiot to not see the connections. You'd be an idiot not to see the dots and not to see that they're connecting. So you take everything that happens with a grain of salt, and it's so clearly all about oil and money and power that it's just, they're not even hiding it sometimes. They're just like, yep, we want to take over everything. So
who is the puppet controller?
I think, you know what, my personal view is that even the president on some levels doesn't know what's going on fully with everything that's happening. We always hear about these black budgets, and we always hear about these dark budgets, and the billions of dollars that are funneled into there and everything. And you got to wonder who are the ones that are sitting at that table, like a commission almost, and saying this is what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen all across the world. It's not like, they're just here in America and they're just doing this one thing. I feel, in my personal opinion, that it's a lot bigger than we think, and it's a lot more deeper and involved, and it is actually little strings being pulled here and there and all that kind of stuff that leads to these big general things. But to answer the question, who do you think it is that's pulling the strings? You know what? I think it's not just one person. I think it's a committee of really rich, powerful people, but a small group that are basically, controlling everything that's going around.
Is Putin his own man?
I think Putin, in some ways, he is very much a caricature of himself, and I think in some ways he's very much like ridiculously funny and just himself, but I genuinely think he's that crazy. I genuinely think that he's that wacko upstairs to think, screw everything. Just going to bum. What are you going to do? I mean, they even have, because of the polar ice caps that are melting, there's new land that's at the North Pole that wasn't there to begin with. He said, it's mine. What are you going to do? It's mine. You can't just do that. You can't just say, this land that wasn't land before, I know it was under ice, but it's ours. It's clearly ours. And there's what, like 8 nations, 6 nations, 7 nations, something like that. I know my numbers are off, surrounding that area, and they're all just basically scared, S-less of this crazy guy that rides bears and arm wrestles, bearded women and cheetahs, and like what is he doing?
I'm starting to think that he is uncontrollable.
Yes, I think so too.
But
I think he's doing it in a very calculated way. That it makes him seem very uncontrollable, and it makes it seem like I could fly off the handle at any time. But he's a very calculated person.
Isn't that an endearing quality?
What, craziness or calculation?
I kind of like the guy.
Yeah.
Because
he's unpredictable. Whoa.
I was watching last week. He went and played hockey, right? And he broke his own record. He scored like 7 goals. Now, who's going to block?
Exactly. Who's going to stop that? That guy is getting murdered the minute that he touches anything.
And I just thought, how cool of a guy is that?
Yeah.
He's going to go out there. He's going to play some hockey.
Yeah.
He's going to high stick a couple of guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Take somebody out. Nobody's going to get up.
Well, the goalie fell down again. Right. Amazing. For the 7th time in a row. He got distracted right when he was shooting. So I was like, what?
Yeah, I just thought, how cool of a guy is that?
He is. He's a certain brand of crazy that you kind of, I hate to say this, but you kind of respect the craziness. I'm not saying, we should all respect Putin or anything like a solid statement like that, but there is a certain level of, whoa, I want to kind of see. It's funny, you kind of in a way are like, I want to see what's going to happen next, but what can happen next might be World War III. So
right.
You kind of want to watch it with a little grain of salt.
And I think he's not dumb.
No.
So I don't think World War III is in the question.
No.
He doesn't want
But the
that.
threat of it is something that can get a lot of things accomplished for him. The threat of doing that.
Well, growing up here in America, like I did, I spent some time outside of the country too as well. But growing up here, dealing with the Russian bear, the Russian threat, the Russian nightmare, the Russian enemy.
It's always been around.
And we heard this constantly.
Right.
And now all of my friends, not all, but most of my friends and family are Russian and Armenian. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, it's the coolest, warmest, unbelievably happening, people, just like anybody else. Believe it or not, there are actually cool French people, too.
Yeah.
So I'll even throw I know they exist. They're out there. But
some guy shaking his fist at the radio now. Whoa, there was many than more.
I will get emails. Church, there are no cool French people. But the Russians are the same as us, and the Chinese, and so they don't. No, they love this planet too, man.
It's all just a big power play. I mean, come on, think about it. Have we ever? Since we figured out that the military-industrial complex can make a lot of money, have we ever not had a boogeyman that we're scared of? I don't think there's ever been a time where it's always jumping from one boogeyman to another, someone we should be scared of. Listen, you should listen to us because this guy might take over.
Right.
This guy might kill you.
Right.
Well, this guy's in a cave on dialysis. But there's always some sort of a boogeyman. There's always some sort of like very obvious. We should watch out. I'm not saying we shouldn't be scared of dictators and people that are trying to wield their absolute power. But you should also look at it like, why every single day there's some sort of threat that they're showing us that we should be grateful in a way that they're taking care of for us. It's that kind of a thinking that after a while you start seeing, you're like, this is all leading to my BS meter just going way off.
Well,
off
that's
the charts.
That's opium for the masses is fear.
For sure.
And you're always going to control. And that doctrine has gone down for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, it's nothing new with the United States.
No.
Sure.
You put the fear into the people. That way you can control everybody. And there was reasons to do that. It helped people grow and keep stability and
right.
so
There was
forth.
a time where we needed that.
Yes.
not anymore as much.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's exactly where I'm going. Now we're getting a little bit too smart to be lied to all of the time.
Right.
When the veil was lifted between Russia and the United States, and the Russians found out that there wasn't gang fighting in the streets every single day. People shooting heroin addicts, shooting other heroin addicts
with guns and heroin.
Yes, with guns and heroin. Yeah. And then we found out the same thing about the Russian people. You know? And
wait a second. They're not as.
Wait, what was this that you've been feeding this whole time?
Yeah.
You know? And when that veil was lifted, now it's like they're trying to get that veil going again.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're definitely, turning the wheels of the propaganda machine and the scare machine for sure in that direction. Because, now that, Bin Laden is gone or our other boogeyman is gone, now we've got to fear Putin also. I mean, you got to think about it like this. I'm not backing him up or giving any kind of statement saying that he's correct or anything, but you got to think in his country's starting to be surrounded on all corners by NATO, every single way that he's looking. And if he makes the wrong decision over here, then that's invading a NATO country. And, they have the doctrine, you invade one, you invade all of them. So kind of in a way, the guy's with his back against the wall in a way, And again, I'm not saying that I'm condoning everything he's saying, but you have to think about it from the other end also.
All of the countries that were, part of the Russian Federation, USSR, are gone. Right. They're all now members of NATO. So that cushion, that buffer zone,
he doesn't have a buffer anymore.
No, and when all the way, if you think about it, Poland and Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia, Ukraine, right? You can go all the way down. That little buffer zone is gone.
All gone.
It's right up to
and the
his
troops
back
just
door.
Keep coming closer and closer and closer to the front door. So what can one do but try and defend what is theirs? But I'm not saying this in a sense that the American government is this and what the Russian government is that and it's better and everything. It's just an observation on what I'm seeing generally going on and happening. So.
Well, now let's stay on the same subject, but kind of change it a little bit. When we're talking about disinfo and what we've been fed over the years, when it comes to Armenia, I had Van Setyan on the show a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that is shocking to me, I don't know if we talked about this the other night or not, but when
we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we did. And you know what? No jokes either. I was hoping I got 3 comedians over at the house that I would laugh all night. Man, that was some serious conversation.
It was.
Is the disinfo about Armenia. And today I'm the America knows Armenians because of the Kardashians,
which is horrible.
As harsh as that is, those are the cards we're dealt.
Yeah, no, I mean it is him, Dr. Kevorkian. That's all they know of.
I forgot about him, Dr. Death. I forgot.
I wish Dr. Kevorkian hooked up with the Kardashians. And
oh man,
I won't go.
Okay, is when we talk about the very cradle of civilization that Sitchin wrote about, Sumerian text and Mesopotamia, Iraq, Syria, right there, Armenia, which now today, because of modern borders, is called Turkey.
Yes.
Now, whether the Ottoman Empire, Turkish, was influencing society, and they did, of course. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah,
but where Göbekli Tepe sits now.
Yes, we're talking about this a lot.
Is that's the Armenian highlands.
Yeah.
That Armenia went from the Black and Caspian Seas all the way to the Mediterranean. Armenia is landlocked today.
Right.
That's what people know about Armenia. They don't realize that Armenia was touching three major bodies of water.
And it was very much a strategic place.
It's totally strategic. Persian Empire was right there.
Yeah.
And then you had the reach going down to Egypt. How do you feel about this suppression of history today where it's not taught? The Armenian influence is not taught.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, how do I feel about it? I feel horrible about it. I feel that, there definitely should come to the forefront. And, it's like you were saying, I'm just going to kind of loosely quote you, but like you were saying, just because they found it in what is modern day Turkey doesn't mean that it's Turkish artifacts. It would be like us digging and finding an Indian artifact and be like, look at this 1,000-year-old United States artifact. You're like, that's not how it was. And you were the one that kind of pointed that out. And it opened something in my eyes when I'm thinking, yeah, just because, it was found in the place. But how do I feel about it? I mean, it's definitely, again, something that all you can do is just spread the message, spread the knowledge, spread what you know, have other people know about it. Because then you kind of get to see it and you're like, oh, the picture is a lot different than what it's painted right now. History is just written by the people, that revise everything and that change it to the way that they want it to do, that sees fit. And you're even saying they're still teaching stuff in stuff about Egypt that was just found, what someone thought in the 1800s and the 1890s. So,
right.
And that's still taught today.
Right.
So all you can do is find out the real truth and just get the truth out there, because then the distorted facts no longer become the facts. They become distorted.
Do you think there'll ever be a day when a Turkish archaeologist from Istanbul is going to be, at a site and uncover an artifact and hold it up and go, look, an Armenian statue?
They never will. And speaking on the whole Turkish and Armenian thing, I don't think they ever will, because they've gone so long going one way, then they can't go the other way. It's like Pete Rose coming out and saying, I was completely lying the whole time. So I don't think they're ever going to come out and say, look at this thing. They might just say, look at this artifact that we got, and not put a label on it and say Turkish or Armenian. But they're never going to come out of their way and say something like that. I personally don't think they will.
Yeah, Pete Rose might do it first.
Yeah, Pete Rose might admit to gambling before the Turkish admit to the genocide. That's a sad state of affairs when that's the truth.
What do you think about Göbekli Tepe? How significant is it?
It's mind-blowing. I mean, if you think about it, it smashed what we thought our timeline was of humanity by thousands of years. 7,000 years older than the pyramids, somewhere like that.
Yes.
So it definitely... It reinforces the things that people were already thinking beforehand. That, you know what? I don't think society is as young as they're saying it is. I don't think people are as young as they say it is. I think it's a lot older than it is. And here's some tangible proof that you can look at and you could touch and feel, not just some books that someone wrote a long time ago. Not discrediting books, but this is something different where we can carbon date it. We can look at it. We can see, clearly they were an intelligent culture because they're making these, almost 3D like rock formations of animals and animals that were around, and look at the geometry and look at the mathematics that's involved with doing this and the way that they moved all the all the material just to do all that. It shows that we're a lot more intelligent. It basically tells me what I've been thinking and what's been going around a long time about how we're a lot older than we are is the truth. And saying that we're just, some bone-wielding Neanderthals at that time is completely false,
Well, and that's something that I'm comfortable with wrapping my head around, this thought.
Right.
There definitely were hunter-gatherers at that time.
Yeah.
And so the hunter-gatherers that are off on the other hill are watching some crazy advanced civilization hauling, quarrying those rocks, getting them out, transporting them up to that site, carving, farms, organization. They had leaders and different, somebody was cooking for all of those guys. Yeah. But meanwhile, there's a family over here that is foraging for seeds every day. Yeah. And you had this dichotomy of cultures going on at the same time.
Both of them can exist. They can.
It's fascinating. And so if you're that culture building Göbekli Tepe, do you take your advanced knowledge and go and teach the hunter-gatherers to do that? You probably wouldn't, because those guys, the Stone Age guys, literally 10, 12,000 years ago, who did exist, couldn't grasp that. You couldn't teach them.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. And again, you had brought this up, and I keep thinking about it ever since, we're talking about it, to do something on that grand of a scale and that large took more than just the people that quarried it, people that just brought it over. It took the people cooking, it took the infrastructure and everything that's involved in doing it. So there's proof that people were intelligent, a lot more intelligent than you're giving them the credit, this long ago. And it's not just there. It's all across the world. There's gigantic sites and sites that we can't just go, well, yeah, it's just this. There is a certain sense of, it makes you think exactly how smart were they a long time ago. And I think you're right. I don't think that they would go out and try and teach, someone that they could clearly see that they're not going to grasp it. They're just going to try and further what's around them in the society that is clearly getting it and understanding it.
Yeah, and if you have, well, we did, that culture that built Göbekli Tepe was there. Well, somebody had to teach them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they didn't just come up with it.
Yeah, exactly. So it goes further and further back.
Yeah. It's by intelligent design, I think.
Yeah, completely. Mm-hmm. So that string of family and culture just continues to go back into time. Right. It goes so far back into the Ice Age. That's when you have to look at Sitchin's writings. And that idea, that Graham Hancock idea of not just Graham, but that the researchers that could Atlantis, not Atlantis specifically by name, but that idea that 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, something was much more advanced back then.
Yeah,
it survived through the Ice Age, and it went and allowed Göbekli Tepe to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was knowledge of being able to grow wheat. To cultivate and to make that happen. The idea of Stone Age man one day going, hey, let's genetically alter wheat.
Yeah.
That sounds like something we need to do.
The story doesn't fit in that that narrative.
It just doesn't. I can't agree with that. When I hear a historian say you're not giving man enough credit, that just doesn't hold water. I'm not that dumb now.
No.
I don't think our society today is that dumb.
No, and you can only suppress that kind of truth and that kind of reality for so long before people like me and you and everyone else that's listening here are just like, wait a second. Let me try and put my own 2 and 2 together, and it's not fitting, it's not jiving with what you're saying, kind of thing. And it's really funny to think, oh yeah, that giant thing. No. That's just a coincidence. That was just that one. Oh no, that other giant thing that's been down. That's also just a coincidence. All of these things have to have some sort of a connection, if not that they're all just intelligent from that long ago, and we're not giving them that kind of a credit that they can do something like that.
Who do you think built the pyramids?
Jeez, I think the Jews, they built it. No, I think, well, that's what they said. I don't think that they built it. It's just a joke. I think...
Send all of your email to Mike Gregorian.
Michael Gregorian. He's an anti-Semite. I think, I think it was built for a reason.
That would be pro-Semite.
Wait, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. It's true. I'm getting my Semite tenses.
Yeah. Your defense went right up.
I think it was built by the people that were there, but I think it was built for a reason. Like it wasn't just, a pretty sculpture or a pretty thing that they put together. I really feel like that there was some purpose, some day-to-day purpose, some big purpose for them doing it, because it took so much manpower and time and effort. Even if they were helped out, and even if there was some sort of blueprint put in front of them, it still took them, like, they had to do it. You can't just be like, here, go do this. So I think there is some sort of reason for it. What I think that is, I know I like the theory about how that the waters would fill the chamber, and there'd be some sort of a way that they can harness electricity and gather electricity from it.
One day we're going to figure it out. I don't know if we're going to find some, library of information but one day we're going to figure it out. and it's going to blow our minds.
Yeah.
That thing is going to shake, rattle, and roll and light up.
Yeah.
And boom.
Aren't they saying it's under the paw? What is it, the right paw that's supposed to be? They did all that. Some sort of a sonic,
There's a couple of, that's what Edgar Casey had spoken about. Right. But there has been a chamber discovered under there. There is an entrance there. It's kind of funny how nobody wants to go and check it out.
Right.
Nobody wants to take it a step further. There's a few things that I find interesting about the Great Pyramid. We have the capability to look underground with radar and sonar and ground penetrating. We have the ability to examine the Great Pyramid and see if there's other chambers there.
Right.
Nobody wants to find out.
Yeah, and we're also getting a lot from the Egyptian government. Oh, no, don't, you don't have to. There's nothing there.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I think that there's more to it than them just saying, no, there isn't, because I think there might be a lot of truths and a lot of stuff in there that they don't want it to get out. So by just saying either you can't or it's not there or we're just going, never mind. That's all, helping out that sort of conspiracy of not letting us find the truth and letting us find out exactly what's going on.
One of the things that we just lose sight of is when Napoleon got to Giza, it was the Sphinx was buried in sand.
Right.
It was just a head sticking out.
Yeah. No paw, no nothing.
Right. So are we to think that the only thing that was uncovered was the Giza Plateau and the Sphinx? And all of that sand is hiding something. Let's go and find out.
Right.
Let's use some ground penetrating radar. Let's fly some stuff over the top. Let's do what we can, and let's go and find out what's there. I feel like they don't want us to find out.
I don't think so either.
There's something there. Could it be an alien connection? Could be. Could it be the Atlanteans? Could be.
Right.
Could another lost civilization? Will it prove that Giza is 150,000 years old?
Right.
It could be any or all of the above. But one thing is true. They don't want us to find out. They don't want us to know.
Because I think then what that's going to do is just like we're saying, it's going to shatter that veil. It's going to lift up the old proverbial curtain. And we're going to find out, wait a second, we don't have to abide by your rules and listen to what you're saying because look, here's this thing telling us that we're this other, So I think that's what it is. I think it's just that suppression of the truth. There's got to be a reason why they're suppressing it so much. Because if not, then like, why don't you just go ahead, look, go for it. And it's very easy for us now in this day and age to do that. But we're there. Either we don't want to, we as in like the community that actually could do something about it, not me and you. We couldn't go down there with like, ground penetrating sonar, but There has to be a reason why it's being suppressed, and what is it really that's there? And like you're saying, if we find out, it probably could just blow, shatter our minds about what it actually is.
Well, I have quoted my cousin, Armenian, cousin-in-law. He said to me one day, he said, Jimmy, and I've quoted him, I've stolen this. It was so profound. It's now my own. I can't do it in front of you, so I'll admit it was him. But he said to me, he said, the reason why they don't tell us the truth about aliens is because if we find out that we are not alone, it is worse than finding out that we are alone.
Right.
And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He said, because if we find out that we are not alone, that will give us a reason not to fight.
Yes.
It'll make us happy.
Yeah.
It will make us
completely
have a reason to live as a planet. And
no more
forward.
wars, no more.
If we find out that we are not alone, that is depression.
Yeah.
That's
even
fear.
worse. Yeah, right.
That is absolutely worse.
Yeah.
And it was such a profound way. It made me stop and just think. He's exactly right. What would be the worst thing that we could find out? That we are alone.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to live for.
That's it. You're done. You don't need to.
There's no reason. Let's just go and fight each other.
Yeah. Well, then
let's just be angry.
Then they can't Wars can't really happen if we know, wait a second, we're all on the same side. Everybody on this giant globe is on the same side. Because think about it now. It's such an abstract thing to think of that we're on this giant floating orb, but there's people fighting in this little part of land, and then this other part of land is fighting this other part of land. And we're all just inner fighting rather than looking out and looking up and trying to go forward. You know, it's like I was saying when we're having dinner the other day, that's what was part of what's cool about the whole Gene Roddenberry Star Trek thing, is he envisioned a time when there was no wars, there was no, discrimination. We all came together for the common good of going out and finding and exploring and doing that. But it's like you're saying, if we know that we're not alone, then we're not going to listen to them. It doesn't, your stupid reasons for us to fight that next guy in this other country is no more. Right. We're all a human race. We're one race, not like a bunch of different people. Then we'll know, okay, there's more to this than just us over here. So,
well, we're going to be up against a break here in just a second. And, with this new discovery from Kepler, which we were talking, which is all of the news, which is exactly what we're talking about. What if this turns out to be
the thing,
an alien megastructure? What if it does? What does that do?
Happen next?
What does that do to the Muslim religion? What does that do to Islam?
Christians and everything.
What does that do to Buddha? What does it do to world religion?
Yeah. Will it further strengthen it or will it weaken it? That's the question.
It's man. I think we're right at the precipice of something really crazy going down.
Right.
We're up against a break. I wanted to tell you. I'm going to share an Andrew Dice Clay story with you. It's really funny. I'm working at Guitar Center. I'm a kid. This is about 20 years ago. And in 1993, 94, right in there. Right. And I'm a manager of the pro audio department. And I'll walk out. I had a little office downstairs. And I walk out and I see a guy standing there in an Andrew Dice Clay jacket. Leather, white, black, and I think it said Dice Clay on the back.
Sure it did.
Right.
I'm sure it did.
But his back is to me. And I thought, wow, that's a cool jacket.
Right.
And he turns around and it's him. Right. And I go, it's you. Of course it's me. What did you, it's like, yeah. And I was like, wow, okay. All right, what's up? And he goes, I play drums. And I want a big PA system in my living room, so big I could play Led Zeppelin so loud that I can play my drums to it. I just want the biggest thing you can sell me.
Right.
I said, like what? And he goes, man, I want two. He's pointing to like these two dual 18 JBL subwoofer cabinets that are like refrigerators tipped on their sides.
Yeah.
I want 4 of those. I want 2 of those. I want 2 of those. And I want amps for everything.
Right.
I'm like, dude, that's
it's
like $30,000. Okay, when can you get it to my house? I was like, are you being serious? I'm being serious. I said, okay. And he goes, man, I need a DVD player. I need a cassette deck. I need, the whole. Wow. All right, okay, let's do this. And so we put this whole deal together, and we go in my office and credit card and stuff, and we'll have it at your house tomorrow, right? Okay, all right. I'm going to go smoke. And I said, okay, I'm going to come with you. You smoke? I said, I do now. All right. And so we walk out in front of Guitar Center, and I didn't have any cigarettes. So he gives me a cigarette, a Marlboro Light 100, big, long, And I said, how cool. I'm smoking with Andrew Dice Clay, man. It doesn't get any cooler than this. And by this point, I had been with him for, probably 3, 4, 5 hours putting this deal together. And we're outside smoking. And he goes, okay, man, I'm going to head home. And I said, okay. And he gets out and he starts walking up Sunset Boulevard. And I yelled at him. I said, where's your car? And he goes, it's at my house. And I said, I'll give you a ride. He goes, no, I'm going to walk. I just got his address. He lived by the Hollywood Bowl.
Right, pretty far.
Yeah.
From where you're at.
So now, Andrew Dice Clay, I'm watching with 3 or 4 of my friends. And if he's listening right now, this is on Everything That I Love, a true story. We're all standing in shock on Sunset Boulevard.
There goes Dice.
We watch him walk for until he disappeared, now people are driving by.
Yeah.
It's Sunset Boulevard. Dice Clay has got a
Wearing
Dice
that jacket,
Clay jacket, and he's just walking by himself, and he's got to go 3 miles to get up to the Hollywood Bowl, and he just hoofed it. And that's a true story, man. And so, the next day, I delivered everything to his house, and we set up in his living room these massive PA stacks that would be loud enough
to do the bowl, the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes, for Van Halen to play a backyard party, really loud in his living room. And it just stacked up. He had a drum set up right in the middle of the floor. And on both sides of the drum set, facing the drum set, were these towering JBL rigs. And we fired that sucker up and played drums. And
his son plays drums.
Yes,
his son's really good at that.
Yeah. And that's my Dice.
That's your Dice story.
I got to hang out with him. He came back. I'll say this about Dice Clay. That dude is the most humble, cool,
seems like it,
down to earth guy.
Right.
And not afraid to tell a joke.
Yeah.
And not afraid to be funny. Yeah. But just a cool guy. The misogynistic guy.
That's all an act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is just a really cool dude and very intelligent.
Yeah, he had a bunch of different characters. That was just one of them. That's the only one that actually took off. So, yeah, it would have been great if he came up to you.
I would love to have him back on the show.
Yeah.
This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Michael Gregorian is with us. We're going to be taking your calls when we come back. 323-825-5045. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Tonight, Michael Gregorian is with us, comedian and just a UFO conspiracy pillar of knowledge. Let's go straight to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Michael Gregorian. Who's calling?
Oh, Michael, this is Michael in the Adirondacks. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Everything good?
Everything's good, brother. Retired. We need showers. We need some rest. But yeah, everything's good.
Fun show
it's all coming
tonight.
together.
Yeah, fun show tonight, huh?
Oh man, I can't tell you how excited we are. I'm overwhelmed. We really are. A lot of emotion, a lot of good emotion.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what have you got for Michael tonight, Michael?
Well, I was wondering if he had any jokes about Canadian hunters. I got one in particular. These two guys that go up to Newfoundland to hunt moose, and the pilot on the plane that flew them into the lake dropped them off. And he says, I'll be back in a couple of days. Well, he comes back in a couple of days, and he lands and goes down the shore and finds both of them there, and they both have bagged the moose. And he says, I'm sorry, guys. He said, my plane is not big enough to carry you guys back and two moose. And one of them says, well, how about, last year when we were out here, the pilot, he had the same size plane. He flew us out with two moose. We got two last year. And he said, oh, I'm a little reluctant about that, but okay. So they load up the moose, and they get in the plane, and the plane takes off, and it can't hold enough power in the air, and it crashes about a mile from the lake. One of the Frenchmen climbed out and looks at the other guy. He says, you got any idea where we are? And the other one turns to him and says, yeah, it looks like the same place we crashed last year.
Mike, did you write that down?
It was Mike. I'm glad you picked a really short joke to do on the internet.
Yeah, it's all I had.
Perfect.
Perfect
joke placement.
It was good though. Thank you so much, Mike. It has been a fun show, hasn't it?
Jimmy, I got to tell you, it's been a long journey. All right, and you have a gift, and you have this ability to communicate, and that's important. Communication skills. You're the man. You are the man. And I got to tell you, you were the voice in the wilderness.
No,
I just want you to know that. I mean.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the phone call, Mike. And you know what? Have I sent? Do you have a Fade to Black T-shirt?
No, in fact, you owe me a couple.
I probably do.
He's like, you owe me 3.5.
Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, I'm going to need a couple, Jimmy.
Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
I'm going to be a walking billboard, I think, when this is all said and done. So.
All right. Does Rita have your address?
I believe so.
Okay, then.
Yeah, she must. I'll tell you what, I'll send you an email, and I'm a little concerned about our location. Right now, we're in a secure location, and I just it's been nerve-wracking, brother. It really has.
Well, just send us an address that you can definitely go and pick up the package, and we'll take care of it, because we will. Friday we'll be sending out a bunch of stuff. So get it to us, and we'll get it out to you.
Yeah.
All right, I'll drop that. I got a bunch of pictures to share. A bunch of other stuff too.
You got it, Michael.
Let's head into the future. This is a historic time.
It is. It absolutely is. And we'll see you tomorrow night on Fader Night.
You got it, brother.
Be safe.
Thanks. Yeah.
So what do you, phone lines are open, 323-825-5045, 323-825-5045. What do you think about this announcement about this mega structure?
Kepler one? Yeah.
I mean, are you flipping out?
Again, I'm listening to the grain of salt, but at the same time, I am kind of thinking, wow, this is the first time that they're actually coming out and saying, that there is something that's out of the ordinary that we're seeing with Kepler and stuff like that. You would think they wouldn't do that for some reason. I don't know why I think that they wouldn't actually come out and say it, but it's huge news. It's really big. I mean, when you listen to why they think that there's a mega structure, that isn't like as much as solid proof of we can see this thing, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. It's definitely a step in the,
This is the shocking thing, and I keep saying it over and over again, but I want this audience to understand the implications of why this is so significant. Mm-hmm. Kepler can see, in its range of view, 150,000 stars at a time. and its software analyzes all of those stars all the time.
Right.
It's looking for the slightest deviation in light. That's and it is so sophisticated, and they've got it down to such a science that they know what to expect, and they see the norm. They see the norm. And what is normal is a 1% deviation. So you have a star, and you have a planet in orbit around it, and when that planet goes in front of the star, a 1% deviation in light output happens. That's consistent. And that's what they see. They see it thousands and thousands and thousands of times over again throughout a 24-hour period. That's what Kepler's job is. And when this one thing comes along, and now we see a 20% deviation for the first time out of 150,000 stars, and it's only this one that is doing it. If you are an analyst looking at this data, you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
What is going on here? Now, that's what's important. So what is big enough to block out a star's light by 20%? And it's the only time that it's ever happened. I have heard a few times now from different sources a weird statement. The alien megastructure statement is enough to make you go, whoa, right? But I've heard comments about rectangular shape. Now, we're talking about a 20% change in deviation. But now if you're going to, an alien megastructure, but if you're going to start dropping in the shape of this, how did they do that, first off? And I guess in the software, they are able to establish in front of the star the blocking of the light, and maybe that is where they're coming up with this. Or do they know something
a lot more than
a little bit? Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And why
They're
do this?
spoon feeding us the information
Spoon
that kind
feeding.
of get us used to it, and it's more palatable that way.
And do you think that the way that you have received the news and the way that they are spoon feeding it now, do you feel like we are shocked by it?
I think that we're so, the way that they're giving it to us, now that I'm saying this, I'm kind of thinking about it, that it is in a way like kind of spoon feeding it to us little by little bites at a time. So then if we come out and just say this, bam, this big, huge statement of, we definitely know what it is, we've spoken to them and everything, we would just be in shock. But the way that they're telling us, they're just kind of little by little, in a way, again, just spoon feeding us. I can't think of it.
Well, as opposed to saying they sent us a message last night, and the aliens say, that's not what they're doing here.
They said, "Where's Carl Sagan? He's our guy."
I wish Carl Sagan was with us right now.
Yeah. Have we seen what Neil deGrasse Tyson has to say about
I
us?
haven't. He has. Michio Kaku did. Man, we should call Michio right now. You want to call him right now?
Let's do it.
You want to?
Yeah.
We'll do it after the break.
Okay.
I'll call him. I'll call his cell phone, man. I got it right here. I'm not kidding. But Michio came out and said, is using those words. And when you do that, when it comes from the establishment, where they are crossing the line, because I say this so often, but these announcements come by committee.
Right.
Nobody is rogue.
No.
Nobody is going to go rogue and say alien megastructure unless, nobody's going to come out and say that. Nobody's going to go rogue. The only reason why you are saying alien megastructure is because it's been approved.
Yeah.
That's it.
The verbiage is definitely
the verbiage is there. When that's one of the funny things about mass media, isn't it, Michael? When you can go from Fox to MSN to Bloomberg to BBC to CNN,
and it's all the
ABC,
same thing.
NBC, right? And it's the same words that are used.
Yeah.
So when alien megastructure is out there, an alien world, alien megastructure, I can pull it up right now and do 1,000 hits on Google and look at all of the news outlets around the world. All of the verbiage is going to be the same on this. It's going to be alien megastructure.
Yeah,
right?
I never thought of it like that way.
Yeah. And so it comes from one source. Did you know and if you didn't, I'm going to blow your mind. Did you know that Reuters and API are owned by the Rothschilds?
That does not surprise me. It really just does not surprise me. I was waiting for you to say something completely like, did you know that they're also, whatever, Nazis? But no, that makes sense. Doesn't it not make sense?
So all of our news, it used to be
coming from
one source.
Yeah.
One source. And when we had United Press International, which was bought by API, or all of these conglomerates, everything, not only the news, but our food, our media, every oil, everything is just owned by 6 corporations, and then everything funnels off of that, and other corporations own other things. But pretty much, by and large, there's really only 6 things that own everything on planet Earth.
Yeah, we've all seen that picture where it has, it branches out and it all starts from 4 or 5 or 6 different companies. But that right there should alarm you to the point where you're thinking to yourself, okay, everything that's coming out of these sources has to have some level of BS in it, because it's all coming from the same source. It's all coming from, one group of people. That's not news. That's just a game of telephone, from what they want you to hear.
So when we're talking about this alien megastructure thing, and it's I don't want to be the ultimate conspiracy theorist here, but if you really
they're
think
lying about that?
Yeah, but what?
I was thinking the same thing.
And it's a Rothschilds like decision. Yeah. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So what do you get, Michael, if you flip this story over? The possibility of an alien megastructure, out there. So if you flip it over and they say it's 1,500 light years away and it's an alien megastructure. So if you flip it over, you would get a couple of things. I'm going to ask you, but in my opinion, you put an S on the end of megastructure.
Mm-hmm.
It's megastructures. That's the first thing. It's 1,500 miles away. Well, then we find out that it's actually 1,500 light years away. Then we find out that it's not. That it's actually like, just outside of our solar system, and it'll be here on Earth in 30 days. Right? It's some crazy, the opposite of this. So, what do you get when you hear that?
I'm instantly thinking of, like you're saying, like, what's the purpose of why they're telling us this? Like, what is their end game if they're telling us this over here? So if this is the carrot that they're dangling in front of us, what could it be? I mean, it's like they say, it's like we're talking about this again the other day, that there very well could be this gigantic boogeyman that the whole world has to fear, and we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We've got all this covered, us as the world, then that could be a way to slip in some sort of NWO or some sort of, trust us, 8 people, we've got it covered. Everybody has to worry about it because there's the boogeyman right there. They're a lot closer than we expected, and they're trying to make contact with us. And so it's that sort of what is the belly? What are we looking at? So I think it's in that way. That's probably what it is.
Is it because of the knowledge of free energy or energy sources, or being able to tap into everything like what Tesla had brought forward? Yeah. Is it that? Is it because they would lose control of the oil income?
That's interesting when you say that, because that does make a lot of sense. That could be some sort of a way that that they could push their agenda in a way, because I feel like that if we're not reliant on them anymore, then how are they going to make that money? How are they going to continue to profit all this if we're like, wait a second, we can get all this for free. There's energies and ways that we can travel that we're getting from these people, that will it's just, that's the thing. Once they don't have that thumb on top of you, then that's when they start getting nervous. Once they can't keep their thumb on top of you, that's when things start getting, that's when all of a sudden you start seeing things change and the shift in like our attention span over here or over there. But I think the energy in the oil thing is a very very good observation, because that could be a way that they're trying to do that.
What about trying to figure out a way, like working out a deal with the cabal, with the Illuminati, in that, okay, well, then let's figure out a way to go ahead and pay for some of this free energy. We'll let you tap into it. You can figure out a distribution network for this free energy system. You guys can still profit. We'll let you do that, but give it to us. Give us this knowledge, and and go ahead and disclose that is where you got it from. We're okay with that. We're not going to lose our minds. Mm-hmm. We're okay. We know. We've seen Transformers. We've seen Pacific Rim. We've seen The Day the Earth Stood Still. We've seen Independence Day. We know.
Yeah, but that's also a way of conditioning us in a way too. So, if we're used to seeing stuff like that, then that's how we would naturally react to when something like that happens. It could all, I know it sounds way out there and kooky, but all of these things could all have, something to do with the other. The movies and them spoon feeding it to us and, all that kind of thing. Maybe that's what they want. They're like, hey, listen, we got this thing. We got this energy. We'll give you a little bit of it. You just got to pay for a little bit. We'll protect you from these guys, but still need us and want us and, have us in your lives still. That's kind of the thinking. It's like an abusive boyfriend that just convinces that girlfriend that she needs to be with him.
Man, you can metaphor like nobody's business, man. Let me tell you something. You are a metaphor king.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would hate to be your son. Or your daughter.
Son, it's like,
Yeah, exactly. Dad, stop with the metaphors, man.
Son, it's like the one time I saw Andrew Dice Clay. He told me, hickory dickory dock, sell me a iPod dock.
Yes,
or a clock.
Yes. Now you're a member of Hollywood. You're Glendale. No. Well, see, this is. I moved here. Mm-hmm. My image of Hollywood and what it is what was given to me from sitcoms growing up and Laugh-In, live from Burbank, California, Laugh-In, and then you get here and you find out that Hollywood and Studio City and Glendale and Burbank, and these are very small towns. They all touch each other. Everything, Universal City and Hollywood, and North Hollywood and Van Nuys and all these towns that you hear about growing up, they're almost of a legendary status. Then you get here and you find out that Studio City is 2 blocks by 4 blocks, and Burbank is 6 blocks by 6 blocks. All of it occupied by Warner Brothers and Disney
and Armenians
and Armenians. Yeah. But what do you think? When I say you're part of it, it's because you live here. You cross the street and you're in Hollywood. You cross the street, you're in Studio City or Universal City. Is there a message constantly being put out by the studio system with films that is hidden messages? Is it a bombardment? And does it come from Washington, D.C.? And is there a control of Hollywood?
I think so. I think there is a certain sense of that. I think there's a certain sense of that they're in a way pushing a sort of agenda or, feeding you a story or a narrative that they want you to hear. The strongest, I think, threat to all that is an independent thinker, an independent thought, and not doing it in the way that they're doing. But I definitely think that there's, them pushing themselves on you or them pushing their sort of agenda and giving you, the story that they want you to hear. Yeah.
And is it an alien angle? Is it E.T. As well as a rah-rah country military side where they're trying to support the angle of, like, what was the American Sniper? Mm-hmm. That is a perfect example where I see a film like that.
And the Benghazi, all those films that happen right after, some of the events. It's always very, very skeptical when you see an event happen, then all of a sudden it's glorified on the news, or all of a sudden it's made a movie out of it, and it's telling you this perfect story. Well, A happened, then we had to do B, and then B happened, then we had to do C, and that's why we have D. But life isn't like that. Stories aren't really like that all the time. But it definitely gets you more skeptical when you see stuff like that. Like you said with the American Sniper movie, or what do they have? They have Black Hawk Down.
Yes.
So it's very coincidental, and at the same time, it's very thinly veiled and very obvious.
Do you watch Homeland?
I do. I watch it religiously.
Okay, so do I.
I just didn't watch the last one, so don't ruin any.
Oh, you didn't watch this past
not episode 3.
Oh.
I didn't watch episode 3. I watched episode 1 and 2.
It was good.
Yeah.
It's getting good.
It's getting really good.
It's getting good.
It's getting good.
That message.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I enjoy the show. It's great writing, and I enjoy a good shoot 'em up. I really do. But even with that, I feel like the message is what the real truth is.
Yeah.
What is going, what is it like in Berlin? What is it like in Syria? What is it like in Lebanon?
Yeah.
Flip it over,
Mm-hmm.
and you're closer to the truth.
You're a lot closer to the truth that way.
I think they're trying to scare the crap out of us about what culture is like there.
So then you have to listen to, and again, going back to what you're saying about the movies, wasn't it Steven Spielberg who has been reported that he's been talked to by the government, or he's been told this is the type of movie that you should make, or this, Close Encounters and all the other different movies. But yeah, I think when you do watch something like that, the skepticism in my brain is automatically like, okay, what is really going on? What's really happening in Syria and stuff that they're not telling you? But then after a while, you just start thinking, geez, am I just looking at everything with like this, am I going to try and look at both sides in the mirror on everything, and it's then,
why hasn't I think this is one of the most honest questions that anybody would have, is when Spielberg does 8mm, or he Close Encounters, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the Martian,
I'm bad with names too. That's why I'm not chiming in.
War of the Worlds,
right?
With Tom Cruise.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on and on and on with Spielberg and this, but nobody has stepped up. I have never had a report. If I was a reporter and I'm interviewing him on a studio junket when one of these new movies comes out, like 8mm or War of the Worlds, and go, dude, what is it that you know? Because you know something.
You clearly know something.
What is it that you're trying to tell us, Steve, for real? What's the real message here? Because you have 40 years of filmmaking with a very, very focused theme here.
Yeah.
What is it that you know? Why hasn't somebody confronted him about it?
And sprinkled here and there with the Jurassic Parks and the Schindler's List. But mainly it is like this one thing. So that just makes you think. And you're right. Why hasn't anyone done that? Probably because, for one, their question probably won't be heard. Whether it be, it's never going to come out that a question like that was asked, or within that interview, he'll stop that interview and just come to a halt. I definitely think that I'm sure in his career, someone's done that and asked him, but we just don't know about it, or it never got out, or he didn't even get to ask that question. Like he's in a room and he answers the question. Instead of answering, he just gets up and leaves. But that's the most obvious thing in the world. Why do they have so many of them? What do you know? What are you trying to tell us? Yeah.
TMZ could find out.
Seriously. Harvey Levin can find out.
Harvey Levin could get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that our culture today, we get the best breaking news from Harvey Levin and Twitter.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you have a feeling, even though it's probably not the truth, that this is not like, the corporate structure or the way that the messengers you're used to hearing. This is more genuine because it's live, Twitter, social media, TMZ. They're still kind of social media. They're giving us the real deal scoop. But yeah, what does that say about our society when we're looking to, for all, for lack of a better term, a trash magazine on TV?
Right.
That's essentially what they are.
Right.
They're like the magazines that are in the aisles of the supermarket.
Right.
But it's just they're on TV.
That's right.
And because they've broken a couple maybe legit things, or, they
break everything.
They do.
They break everything.
People come to them.
Yes.
So now we give them the benefit of the doubt with everything. And that's the worst thing to do.
If you think about it, and this is no joke, there are people, reporters sitting in a room at CNN going, well, okay, maybe. I don't know. I don't trust the source. What does TMZ say? Anybody check TMZ?
I guarantee you that's happening.
Exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm cool. We'll go ahead and do this tonight. Yeah. If you bring me TMZ and I'm good with it.
You're done. You bring me one Wikipedia article and one TMZ article, and this is fact check.
We'll run with it.
We're running with it.
It's vetted.
Front news.
Yes.
It's vetted.
Isn't that frightening?
It is. It's very sad when a guy with that kind of voice is delivering you your news.
Yes, and yeah. Well, it's Harvey Levin, who is 85 years old, and he's got that sipper cup. And he's leaning on the wall, speaking to a bunch of 22-year-olds like he's hip and cool.
Right.
It feels a little dirty to me.
Does.
It's a little unclean.
It does. I mean, it also on another level, it speaks that how sad is it that I look to The Daily Show, or I look to,
yes.
Real Time with Bill Maher, or I look at John Oliver to really give me the real scoop and real deal, It makes it better for those guys now, the way that how sad it is over
John
here.
Oliver, not so much.
It's because it's more, he actually gets something done as far as he makes a little movement and the movement gains traction. And next thing you know, what happens?
You like him because he's also a metaphor king.
He's very metaphorical.
It's
like it would be the same as Andrew Dice Clay.
Yes, it's funny because I will actually catch myself going, I got to write that down.
Yeah,
I got to use that on the show. That was pretty good, and I know it's coming. I know it's like I know it's coming, but I don't mind.
That's the comic in me, just automatically thinking of a metaphor. The way I can, make the audience understand what I'm trying to say.
What do you think about that new Jon Stewart guy?
The guy that took over for him, the South African guy? I forget his name.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
Horrible that I forget his name.
That's why it's not a good replacement.
Well, it's only been like a couple weeks.
But we can't.
Did everyone know Jay Leno's name when he took over for Carson?
Pretty
Probably
much,
not.
yeah. No.
In a week or two?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Bad metaphor.
They warmed him up. They warmed him up for a good 10 years. Okay.
They did.
He was
they prepped him because he'd come and
I watched his first show and it didn't grab me. I wasn't there.
Think about it like this. Jon Stewart took over for someone also. When Jon Stewart took over for what's the guy's name? Blonde, tall guy.
Late night with I've got pictures of me sitting on that set.
You know that on Twitter and everything, they're just screaming at it.
Who was
this guy's name?
Late night with Craig Kilborn.
Craig Kilborn. There you go.
Craig Kilborn.
He took over for Kilborn.
God, we should both be shot.
Seriously.
You're not a comedian.
Not at all.
I'm not in radio.
I don't even know names. He took over for Kilborn, and it was a different show. And it took a while for not only for him to change it, but I think it took a while for him to get his own voice. So I think with Trevor Noah, that's the guy that's taking over.
That's it.
I think with Trevor, what you have to do is you have to give him a little bit of time so then he can develop his own, so he can find out what his voice is that he wants to get across, and then he can kind of morph it and change it into that. Because, like I said, John started with something different and created something different out of it, and made it more of a news piece. We up against it?
Yeah, we're up against it right now. We'll take our last break. This is Fade to Black tonight. Michael Gregorian right here live in the studio in the bunker. Great conversation. I'm going to talk Michael into doing a little overtime with us. Your phone calls are next. 323-825-5045. I apologize for ignoring everybody that was on hold. But that's what happens when I'm engaged. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
All right, you Fadernauts. Studio Dome has done it once again. A new Studio Dome Fadernaut special. Introducing the Studio Dome Boom Box Bluetooth speaker. It's got a rear-firing bass film subwoofer and dual 52mm main speakers. You'll never listen to your tablet or cell phone speakers again. Just click on the Studio Dome banner, use the promo code Jimmy, and you'll get the SBB for $49 and free shipping. And get a Buddy 4-port USB charger for free. That's a $19.99 value right there. And they'll throw in a Buddy in the box. It's the best deal on the net anywhere. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner, enter the promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Yeah, Fade to Black. Great night, great conversation. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, sitting here with comedian Michael Gregorian, and just a wonderful night tonight on the show. I hope you are enjoying it. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Michael. Who's calling?
Hi, Michael. Hi, Jimmy. This is Mark from Oregon.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, guys. Well, yeah, I was thinking about tonight's subject. Comedy, of course, but also aliens and disclosure. And I was reminded of an old joke. I can't remember who said it. It wasn't really a joke. It's more of a proverb almost, I guess. The difference between comedy and tragedy. And tragedy is if I fall down and skin my knee. And comedy is if you fall down in a sewer and die. And to some degree, when it comes to disclosure, we've kind of all been tossed into the sewer. And I think that when you're doing comedy about social norms and attitudes, it's almost like an educational capacity. And I just wondered what you thought about that, Michael. When you write your material, do you think about that, or does that come up for you?
Yeah, definitely there is. And what attracted me to some of the comics that I find like at the top of my little Mount Rushmore do that. They do deliver a message, and they do convey a thought and a way of thinking. And definitely art in general, not just if you specifically want to write that, or if you are having more of a political voice and everything, it does make you think. It does make you wonder. It is supposed to educate. If at the least, if you get pissed off and you don't like what the guy's saying, it made you think about what that guy's saying. So even if I'm not specifically directly talking about, a political subject, like for instance, I have a couple jokes about my grandparents. My grandparents are 90-something, and some of the jokes go one way and then they twist in the other way. If somebody doesn't like that, that's fine, because you know that you were thinking that same thing. I'm just the one that's saying it, and it makes you think, and it's thought-provoking. So I think definitely comedy is a learning tool and a way to teach. I don't know if that's what your question was, but I answered it.
Well, what do you... Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you first. You're the guest.
No, go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
What do you do when somebody comes up to you and says, that wasn't funny? You need to... happens a lot. Yeah, you need to talk about this. You need to write jokes about this. Do you even care?
Joke coaches or joke spotters, as they're called?
Do you even care? Do you listen?
No. As the second the words, here's something you should say, then the rest just goes, wah, 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 wah.
Right.
And I'm already thinking about a way to get out of this conversation. Like, as in maybe nod my head. Oh, that's really funny. I should do that. Or the move I like is where I pull my phone out and look like I'm taking a note. That's good. Can I use that? Are you okay with me using that? Like, just make them think that, oh, what you just said was the most profound thing I've ever heard in my life. It's okay if I use it, right? Okay.
Why is politics so damn funny?
Just because they're such a caricature of themselves. Like, it is just, they're making fun of themselves just by speaking, just by doing them. And because they're so predictable that they're going to be in this cookie cutter way of stupidity, in this cookie cutter way of just being, bigoted or closed-minded or whatever. So there's nothing really that kind of throws you off about it. You're like, oh, well, of course, that's that.
Yeah, is politics never not funny? To an audience,
Yeah.
Is it ever not funny?
Of course. Whenever they start speaking a lot longer than they should, then it's just becoming a tragedy, not a comedy.
Right. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, it just seems like politics and media in general, and I'm not a big news watcher because I'm just disgusted by it mostly, but they control the range or the spectrum of conversation, and the whole conversation is within a very narrow spectrum, and within that spectrum they allow vigorous debate, and that's kind of paraphrasing something that Noam Chomsky said, but I find that's true, and it's just insulting. And I think sometimes one of the things that make me laugh the most with really great comedy is when somebody just points that out, that they point out the broad spectrum and how it's completely ignored in the conversation.
Yeah, they contextually take everything out of it, and they just give you a little sliver of whatever they're talking about. And as long as you can operate within that sliver, then it's fine. Once you start stepping out of there, then you're a kook, or they don't want to listen to you, or they don't want to engage you.
One thing I find interesting, not only with our conversation the other night over dinner, but also right now on this show, when it comes to ufology and conspiracy, that is something that you can't joke about. You can't, and for people that are interested in the subject, you have to have your serious face on. As soon as you try to make light of it or crack a joke, you're one of them. You're a disinfo agent. Now you're making fun of something that can't be made fun of. We can make fun of religion. We can make fun of politics. We can make fun of the financial systems. We can make fun of our relatives, of rednecks, of whatever. We can make fun of our own society. But when it comes to ufology,
it's taboo.
It's a taboo. Why is that?
I don't know. It's the problem that I have is if you believe in one thing, you're also kind of thought of as that you believe all this other stuff. So if you start joking about this thing that you're trying to be serious about, I think then they don't take you serious for a lot of other things. And also, there is this sort of stigma that you shouldn't really make fun of it.
I've done enough, public speaking, and in front of these UFO crowds, and they are there to collect information. They're very serious. They are so paranoid about being made fun of in the tinfoil hat crowd, and they've got this guard up, right? It's up. And when I get up there and I try to be a little bit like I am on this show, where of course I take the subject very serious, and I have very serious beliefs. But when I get up, I'm telling you, I will have somebody just completely offended and come at me with, you can't make fun of this stuff. You can't do it. Hey, Mark, thank you for the phone call, my brother. You have a very safe, blessed evening. We'll see you tomorrow night.
All right, good night.
Let's go straight back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy. This is Jim from New York. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Jim.
What's up, Jim?
Oh, well, I was just listening to you talking about the fear they instill in us, specifically about the Cold War with Russia.
Yes.
I had to laugh when I really learned about it when I was in grade school, because I was in a Catholic church, and the school was right next door, but we'd go to this underground tunnel that was like a hallway for the nuclear disaster drills.
Right.
And we'd squat down, put our head between our legs, and
that was going to save your life.
That'll work.
Yeah,
right.
And then they started making us go under desks, like that's going to help, But I've always had a funny feeling it was just a big ploy to, it would never happen,
Well, how do you feel now that you know what you know about the rest of the world, that, really we're all just the same? What does that make you feel now?
Oh, just from, research and everything, listening to shows like yours, and it kind of, it lightens the load, because you try to, you try to laugh it off, because we're all going to die anyway. And if they're going to, if a nuclear bomb hits, so what, and it would never happen anyway. But.
It makes me wonder if, and Jim, thank you for the phone call. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the phone call.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about if they do that today in school. Is that something that goes on in school today? Do they do those types of drills? I don't know. I've never asked my kids that.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I totally remember. It seemed like if we didn't do it every day, we certainly did it once a week growing up here. Mm-hmm. And the sirens that went on outside too, as well. The civil defense sirens. Where did all of those go? Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Say hi to Michael.
This is Dino.
Hi,
and,
Dino. Hey, Dino.
Since we're talking about comedy, hello. And they still do drills now, but it's for earthquakes up here. Underneath the desk, hold on, keep your eyes away from the window. So at least that's got more.
Like a table.
That's got more reality.
Right.
But since we're talking about comedy, my rant tonight, by the way, happy birthday, Fran. Everybody say happy birthday to Fran.
Happy birthday, Fran.
Happy birthday, Fran.
I don't know you, but happy birthday.
No, she's a very good person, very good Libra, and she's been drinking too much tonight, so she can't call in.
Okay.
She remember that we said it?
Okay, here's my rant. Robin Williams, knew the man. Funny man. Well, I want to tell you something. As a comedian, you got to tell me, this is totally wrong. He lived in Marin County, and they're going to name a tunnel after him. Now, what's wrong with that? Robin believed in extraterrestrials. He was open to a lot of things. He played an extraterrestrial, and they're going to name a tunnel after him. Couldn't they think of something better to name after Robin Williams?
Wow. I'm surprised that they're naming anything after him. Not that he wasn't great. That's not what I mean. But for anybody to carry on a legacy, you never know how or what is going to come. Whether it's going to be an airport, a street, a freeway. Look, out here in Southern California, most people wouldn't know this, but there's about a 10-foot stretch of freeway out here, the 118, that they named the Ronald Reagan Expressway or Freeway or whatever. And I thought to myself, that's not enough. It's just a small stretch. It's nothing. It's very small. And it seemed to me like it was like a gift or like an afterthought. Yeah. So you just never know how it's going to come to you. But yet in Washington, they got the dullest, international airport named after a guy that helped kill JFK, right? and he gets an airport. Bush got his, he's got an aircraft carrier, right? He's got, something like that. But Robin Williams gets a tunnel. Well,
let me tell you what the logic is behind this. The woman that started this was just some fan. I don't know if she even knew him personally. And it was in the local papers that, Robin drove between Marin County and San Francisco so many times, and he drove through this tunnel. It's the tunnel after the Golden Gate Bridge. And, of course, when you come into the Marin County side, they've painted rainbows over the tunnel. But as you go into the city side, it's just soot and black. And she said, well, I'm sure he drove through the tunnel all the time thinking about what he was going to do. What a ridiculous reason to name a tunnel after a funny man like Robin.
Yeah.
So that's my rant.
I actually heard that they're coming out with a limited edition Robin Williams belt. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Oh, jeez, that's horrible.
How is that horrible? I think it's great.
They say that comedy, we were talking about it earlier, comedy is tragedy given some time, then it's funny.
Yeah, isn't it tragedy plus time equals funny?
Yeah.
Something like that. I may be butchering it, but...
If they come out with the Jimmy Church limited edition spoon, I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. I think it's flattering. I don't know why. Why did he wear a specific kind of belt?
No,
did I miss something?
No,
Didn't he hang himself?
He hung himself with it supposedly.
Oh,
But Jimmy,
that's the joke. Okay, all right.
We lost
but we
half
all
the
know
listeners.
the real conspiracy, because it was
really
in the
funny.
National Enquirer, is that there was a guy waiting for him outside. It might have had something to do with Mark Richards, who Kerry Cassidy interviewed in Vacaville prison, and they say that he was getting too close to the truth, and they had a guy waiting outside the house that actually murdered him.
No.
But I also heard some inside story that there was autoerotica involved.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
care
what I
what
heard,
it was. He was a nice man. I wish I could have
He was a troubled
found him
man.
before he did that.
Yeah.
You know what? Look, Michael, are you troubled?
Yes.
You're a troubled guy, right?
Yes.
And to be I don't think.
Look, to be crazy enough to stand on stage and have people listen to you.
That's my point.
And you want to talk, you have to have a certain level of wacko inside of you. And every single comic has some sort of reason why they've used comedy as a defense mechanism throughout their life. They may have been divorced, and they may have been picked on, they may have been this, they may have been that, but they've definitely developed it as a shell to insulate them from the rest of the world. And I don't think Robin Williams is any different, and I think he definitely had his demons and he had his problems and, all like that, but he just made a bad decision and, that's what happened.
Well, we had a lot of fun. We were a small group of comedians back in the 70s before he was famous on Clement Street in San Francisco. And they used to pass the hat. It was a folk club where we started the Holy City Zoo, and they would pass the hat in between the belly dancers, and that's when we comedians could go on. We didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Now, I obviously wasn't crazy or goofy enough because I never made it in comedy, but Robin did, and a lot of other people came out of that scene there. And it's just a shame because there were some tortured comedians. I don't drink. I didn't like hanging around a bar, but I would do it to get my 5 or 10 minutes on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, if you stop and just take a quick peek at the Jim Belushis of the world and different comedians that were absolutely Sam Kinison, we could go on and on. The guys that were not only game changers, but they came from an originality that can only come from personal experience.
Yeah.
And all of those guys drove a car off a cliff one way or another, and had a really bad ending. But their brilliance came from
turning
pain.
that pain into laughter.
Yes.
I'd rather make you laugh and me cry than see you cry. It's that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And
not that I care if the audience is ever crying. I just
well, when you think of guys, when you stop and pick out a brilliant comic, think about it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, think about how his life ended.
Look,
It's like you could go right down a list.
Look what Cosby's doing. He's like, it's a self-sabotage type
Richard
thing.
Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
All these guys that, had... That's the thing, is the funniest guys are the most troubled guys. Jim Carrey, we all know the torment that, and the way that he is, and look how funny he is. It's because we've all kind of developed this thing to hide whatever it is that we're running away from.
You know what I wanted to ask you, and we're at the end of it, but there's one weird country out there that seems to crank them out, and that's Canada. Canada is, for like, and we have a huge Canadian audience, and they all know how much I love, our friends to the Great White North.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something going on up there, and to say it's in the water or whatever, to go to that kind of cliche,
It's in the pot that they smoke.
But and what is it about Canadians? It is absolutely incredible. What has come out of it? It's not a large. It's the same thing with Great Britain and musicians. Great Britain is not big; it's small. But if you think about what has come out of Great Britain, music-wise, not so much comedy-wise.
No.
Well, they do have
John Oliver, and they've got Eddie Izzard. He's really good.
You know what? I just saw Eddie Izzard at the Hollywood Bowl with Rita.
He was good.
Funny guy.
Yeah.
But Monty Python, of course. Right. But Canada has had a tremendous run of funny guys. What is it about Canada that does that?
I honestly think same thing that when we're talking about England, it's they get influenced originally by American artists and American acts, like they did with rock and roll and stuff and blues, and they get influenced. Then they make it their own brand because they want to have their own style, and they also definitely have their own dry sense of humor and the pacing and the timing and all that stuff. So I think what happens
then how does that explain all the hot women that come from Canada and become Playboy centerfolds?
Okay, now you're drinking. Oh, Cortana, check this out, Michael. Cortana just tweeted, Bill Hicks died for our sins.
Yeah. He's the comedy Jesus. Huh?
Cortana, we were talking about Bill Hicks before the show about our favorite guys and Bill Hicks and we were talking about Kevin Regan,
Brian Regan,
Brian Regan. Hold on, Dino. Brian Regan, he is a guy that I think any comedian like yourself, when you go, okay, who's the real guy, who's the funny guy, they're going to go Brian Regan.
And he never cusses ever.
But he's never also broken into the big time. He's not a household word. He's not a Robin Williams or a John Candy or Jim Belushi.
Yeah, they asked him that on when Jerry Seinfeld had Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and they were actually really good friends for 20-something years, 30-something years, and he was kind of talking about that and asking about that. Why is it this? And it's just, I think it's just appeal. I think he's intellectually funny. He makes us all laugh, but he doesn't have that thing that Hollywood can make money off of.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it because he is a comedian's comedian.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it doesn't matter if it's Chris Rock or pick somebody and then you go, okay, who's the real funny guy? Well, I'm not funny, but Brian Regan, he slays me. That guy brings it every single night. But if you walk up to people on the street,
they have no idea who it is.
They wouldn't know. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, he does do 4,000 seaters, 5,000 seaters, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit more than that. So he does tour in that sense. But yeah, he's not as much of a household name as he should be for being someone that's been around steadily
for the 30 years,
early 90s, whenever his career started. So
absolutely.
It's a wonder why he's not more.
Hey, Dino, thanks for the phone call, my brother. We'll see you tomorrow night on Fader Night.
Okay, we tried to say it all. I'm going to shut my cake hole now.
You got it. I'll talk to you. Thank you, Dino. It's been great having you on the show. Can you believe we've blown through 3 hours?
Jeez.
And I feel like we could just sit here for another 3 and go into overtime.
We could. I mean, we're probably going to when the microphones go off. But
yeah, I know. There's a long night in front of us after the show. So your next
again, my next gig is on
Thursday.
That is graffiti, and it's going to be at the Mystery Box in L.A. You can go ahead and find me on Facebook, Michael Gregorian, and I can give you more information that way. And for all my Armenian fans and the guys who are wondering about the Armenian show, we produce Armenian Nights. That's a monthly Armenian show, and it's actually our 2-year anniversary. It's coming up November 8th. That's on a Sunday at Flappers Comedy Club. You can go to flapperscomedy.com, or you can go to armeniannights.com.
When is the next Armenian
Nights is November 8th. And that's a Sunday, and it's 7 to 8:30. So it's only an hour and a half.
I will.
You went to one.
Yeah, I've been to. I would like to go to this next one. I should just get it out there and pump it up. What about Microphone Monkey?
Yeah, Microphone Monkey is the production company that I have that actually produces these comedy shows, like the graffiti and like the not necessarily graffiti, but for Armenian Nights.
So that website is updated all the time.
The ArmenianNights.com is. The Microphone Monkey isn't updated, but will go updating tonight. But you can get all information on shows for me and for the Armenian Nights on microphonemonkey.com.
Stay right there. I gotta start to wrap this up. I will I think Rita and I will go to the next Armenian Nights.
Absolutely.
And we'll drag a bunch of fader knots down there.
Yeah. It's 90% English, so it's not like it's all in Armenian, just a little 10% is just like
that is not true. The last show, I didn't know what they were saying.
Well, we're making fun of you.
It was it was so funny. I'm sitting there with my nephew. We're the only two, this is the only way I can use this term correctly. We're the only white guys in the crowd, right? And of course somebody, and it was you,
it was me,
steps up and go, okay, how many white guys are here tonight? And I just had to raise my hand because I looked around and went, holy crap, I'm the only guy here.
You're the minority now.
It was funny, man. So much. Hey, thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you. I'd love to do it again.
Yes, and we will. Thank you so much. This has been Fade to Black. Very special thanks to Michael Gregorian hanging out live in the bunker tonight. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Viteau, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro is Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night, we have John Richards from SETI live and Dean Ryan tomorrow night. This broadcast is owned copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Very special thanks to Michael Gregorian. Michael, give me one more good night.
Good night, guys.
Everybody be safe. Go Backley Tappy.